and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, Kansas City, it is time for my first sportscast ever on my last 10 p.m. newscast of my career. Big Chiefs news. The Chiefs-Broncos game in Denver in Week 14 has been flexed out of Sunday Night Football. I guess the Broncos are so bad that superstardom of Patrick Mahomes wasn't enough.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Wednesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We've got you the next 4 hours. Talk some NFL football today, some college football, some soccer. It's called soccer, damn it. Talk some of that. Mick Shaffer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. Newest meteorologist for KSHB 41. He'll be taking over for Gary Lezak coming up on Friday. Lezak is retiring from the weather, but he is moving over to sports. So very excited about that. And he nailed it, by the way, that they flexed out of the Chiefs and Broncos because Russell Wilson and the Broncos are that bad.
Thank God. Oh, and that's a win for everybody. How happy did that clip make you? I was tickled to see that. I have not heard very many people say a bad word about Gary Lezak, and frankly, all of the people who have been live on the Border Patrol.
I was about to say, who has ever said a bad word about... Anytime Gary is going a little bit longer and not getting to the weather, then you hear that.
I'd say about the 04 mark in the hour is
although I kind of feel like that's also a bit. I
don't think we do bits around here.
Not on this show, but I'm saying other shows may do something like that.
And I didn't say good bits.
Yeah, good bits, bad bits, great bits, $1. All right, so we'll get into some, like I said, NFL today. We'll talk some soccer. We will talk some college football as well. Cynthia Frelund will join us at 11 o'clock. We'll talk with her. She's our NFL Network analytics expert. Get her thoughts on the Chiefs, on the NFL overall, the 1 seed, if it is wrapped up this weekend in Cincinnati. Is that the case? We'll talk to her about some short yardage situations. I know that there's some consternation coming out of the Rams game in the goal-to-go situations. How much is that noise, randomness? Is it something that is controllable? Because the Chiefs have been pretty damn good this year because they're 72% in the red zone. So one game does not an issue make, but just in general, curiosity, because the Chiefs always get so much credit for how creative they are down inside the 10-yard line. So, is it because they're creative? Is it because, they have Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and other guys that can go and score touchdowns? So we'll talk with Cynthia Frelund about that and some other things, and certainly get her thoughts on this Bengals matchup for the Chiefs on Sunday, a gigantic, mammoth game between the Chiefs and the Bengals. We'll hear from the Chiefs today. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. It will be all about the Bengals. It'll be about last year. What do you remember? What happened at halftime, by the way? Are you ready to talk about that yet? Has enough time passed? Is it not too soon anymore? Is the embargo lifted of the no comment of whatever happened on the way to the locker room or in the locker room or coming out of the locker room or whatever it might have been? Can we lift that embargo? Was it all just BS? Was none of it true? Was it one person that said, hey, I heard this, and then it just spreads like wildfire because 3 or 4 people say they heard something, but they're 3 or 4 separate people that are from different organizations or entities or things like that? Like, what happened there? Also, how do you feel about this game, Patrick? You talked about what you remembered last year from it. Not good memories from it. So we'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and TBD on players today at the podium for the Chiefs. And then, of course, Mick Shaffer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour, KSHB 41 sports director, and we'll get some shot clock reviews with Mick Shaffer coming up at 1 o'clock.
Also a short sad fans.
Yes, that's right. Short sad fans. Short sad, or not short
It's
fans
not
that are
about
sad.
the fans.
Not short fans that are sad.
A short edition of sad fans.
Short
on
fans
Reddit.
that are sad. Okay. Short, sad fans.
So is it okay right now to call Mick Shaffer the interim weatherman?
Meteorologist, yeah. I think
Thank
they
you.
prefer-
They do.
They prefer
well,
meteorologist,
I got
yeah,
nervous
that's-
about the short, sad fans and getting all those terms right that I didn't mean to slander meteorologists.
Thank you.
And if Mick is
They
an
didn't
interim,
go to 8 years of meteorology school to be called weather people.
If Mick is the interim meteorologist at KSHB 41, is he better at his job or more qualified at his new job than Jeff Saturday is at his? A question for Mick. We'll get into that at 1.
The question for Mick would be, is he able to fit in the entire weather in his update and be able to do it within the time frame of the clock that he is given by the producers and his bosses there at KSHB, or does he fumble it or not realize when to go to the next clip or whatever that might be, and then get roasted in the post-production meeting?
I did see that Jeff Saturday, I didn't see this until after we had that conversation yesterday, but I saw that he said that one's going to, I believe the phrase was, stick with him for a while. Yeah. I mean, I guess, but we're all learning on the fly out here. We're all just doing new jobs for no reason. So Mick, as long as Mick knows what like clouds are, I think Jim Irsay is pretty sure he can do it.
Hey, Jeff, what would you talk about if you were on ESPN today about that clock management? What would your opinion be about clock management if you were on ESPN? All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. Let's get into the show. The U.S. does win yesterday. You were right. U.S. got this. Never a doubt. Never a nervous moment whatsoever. Not multiple times the ball in the box where your heart stops for a second, or was that a handball? And then you're like, oh my God, I got to see the replay. Was it a handball? Then you're like, oh, it wasn't a handball. It's just Iran complaining. Oh, was that a penalty? Oh no, was that a penalty? Oh no, it wasn't a penalty. It's just Iran complaining. They were just trying to get penalties. That's all they were trying to do. Had they been trying to score, maybe they might have done that and put it in the back of the net. But it felt like they were more about like, oh hey, that was a penalty. I got pulled down. Well, maybe if you weren't worried about getting pulled down and you actually kicked the ball a little bit harder, it might have, dribbled into the goal. But it didn't. They win. It's all that matters. They move on to face off against the Netherlands coming up on Saturday at either 8 or 9 or 10. I'm terrible with the soccer first touches and kickoffs, whatever it is, because I've got it wrong in the last 2 times the U.S. has played England, and then also yesterday against Iran. I was an hour early, which is better than being an hour late.
Yes.
And I have I'm not even going to say what time they play on Saturday. I'll let somebody else do that.
I believe they play at 9 a.m. Central
sure.
time, but you don't need to rely on Jay. If the zone gets it wrong collectively this time, it's on me. I don't know how
I've seen 9 a.m. Eastern time already.
Oh
by
no,
the way.
have you actually?
But that's
dear.
probably Fox's coverage.
Well, I'll double check that so it doesn't have to fall to you this time.
I'm not saying what it is. I'm not going to say what time they play this weekend.
Saturday morning.
Everybody else can figure it out.
Saturday morning, and you look up the rest of it yourself. That's what you need to know.
They're playing against the Netherlands on Saturday morning in the knockout round. The Sweet 16 they are in.
Yes, that's what they call it.
Yeah, that's and then if they win, they go to the Elite 8, right?
Yes, that's
And then the Final Four, and then the national semifinal, and then
and then it's the Super
and then the
Bowl
World
after
Series.
that.
It's a 7-game.
It's the national championship game, which feels wrong for an international game, but
They actually call if you win 2, it's actually called the college football playoff.
It's so
college
weird.
Football.
It's the college football
It's the
playoff.
World Football playoff.
It's actually the uni football playoff at that point.
Right. WC football playoff. So, yes, they win yesterday, and it's great and fun, and looking forward to the match on Saturday.
It was so stressful, though. I don't know. I admitted to you in a break yesterday, and I'll give it this turns into a straight up endorsement of Nate Bukaty and his entire job on the soccer play-by-play side. I need the announcers in soccer more than I do in other sports.
Yes, you do.
I certainly do. Because if I put football, I watch football on mute. All American football. Sorry, I watch American football, gridiron as I call it.
Yeah.
I watch it on mute all the time because sometimes I'm not necessarily sure that the broadcast is adding a whole lot, and I largely know what I'm seeing. Right?
I had to watch Mizzou Wichita State on mute last night because I couldn't do it. I couldn't listen to what they were talking about I couldn't listen to every time somebody got fouled to shoot a free throw, and the announcer would then go, the best he can do is make this a 6-point game. Every single time, I'm like, mute. I'm done. I heard it 3 times. I'm out. I can't do it. The ball bounced off the backboard at the end of a shot clock. The Wichita State player secures it, starts dribbling. The shot clock goes off, and he goes, well, I guess that must have hit the rim. No! The other team possessed it! The shot clock resets. The buzzer happened to go off because the shot clock didn't reset in time, but the other team possessed it. Mute. Done. Out. So anyway, yes, soccer, need it.
Well, but sometimes you don't. But for me to really understand like what the strategy is, even some of the penalty calls and all of that, I need a little extra help along the way to understand what it is that I'm watching. But at the very end of the game, as extra time was wrapping up, I was doing the home stretch with our friend Sterling Holmes over in ESPN Kansas City yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, familiar.
And we were starting the show as the game was ending. And whatever was happening when Iran made the run at the keeper, and he went up and made the play on the ball, but it kind of went like through the wickets and then behind him. And I still, to this moment, don't know what was actually going on there. But as I was watching it on mute, trying to listen to Sterling, I went down. I did the next couple minutes of radio, as I've done down here, I guess, too, from the floor. Because that right there, choking it away at the end for a tie to send you home would have been really tough to recover from. That would have been a bad energy to bring into the next 4 years of getting excited about our World Cup just around the corner.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I had to, I pick up the daughter at 3 o'clock, so I had to actually pause it at the 92nd minute.
Oh no!
So they added 9 minutes, so I paused it, turned my phone on airplane mode, got into the car, immediately turned it down. Sorry, Seren. Immediately turned it down, picked up my daughter. I was really, really hoping that I didn't see anybody there because, there are other fathers that pick up their daughters. One of the kids in the class that his dad is Korean and is a Korean fan. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him earlier this week when it was Korea versus Ghana. And Korea had fallen behind 2-0. They came back and tied it 2-2. And he was like, I'm so mad. He's like, Ghana just scored a goal. They just got a goal. He's like, I got to race home. And he gets in his car and fires out of there to go home. And I'm like, I kind of hope he's not there. Because if he's there, then I don't want him going out. Just see they scored right before. No, I didn't. Right. So I got in there, got Jules, got in the car, got home, pressed play, and then sat there and was incredibly nervous. And luckily, she was sitting there on my lap, clapping along and getting scared. Oh, Daddy, you scared me. I'm like, well, did you see what happened?
Well, honey, look at clearly the approach.
Almost went in. She's like, okay, so the blue team. I'm like, yes, we're rooting for the blue team. That's right. She's like, yay. Anytime I clap, she would clap. So that was fun. It made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was stressful, and I'm not even that full on invested, watch every single U.S. men's national team game, whether it's a friendly or if it's, CONCACAF, if it's a Gold Cup, if it's qualifying, whatever it is. I'll watch some that are the bigger ones. I'll watch almost every USA-Mexico match. And so I'll do that, but I get so invested in the World Cup as if I've been a lifelong fan. I am the epitome of that person. You know what I am? I'm half the Bengals fans last year in the playoffs. That's what I am when it comes to U.S. men's national team. All of a sudden, they realized they had a team.
I think your emotional intelligence is much greater than that.
Not even talking about him.
I would not. I know. I mean, then all.
Which, by the way,
I guess all Bengals fans. I'm not sure.
Which, by the way, the Bengals are underdogs this weekend.
Well, that's.
So
it's because Vegas's emotional intelligence levels are very low.
There's no such thing as an upset, by the way.
It's never happened ever. I love that experience that you just laid out because this is what I want to invite people to understand the feeling of once again. And a lot of people, this is maybe this is more for all of us who work in this building more so than everybody listening. But I know a lot of people listening right now live and breathe and eat and sleep Chiefs football, Royals baseball, any of your college teams locally. If you are listening to hours of sports talk radio here in Kansas City with us every day, you're a pretty hardcore fan for the things you're really hardcore about, which is awesome. It's an incredible part of fandom. But one thing that I really lost for a while and have recently refound the joy of is being a little bit of a casual.
agreed.
There's nothing wrong with being a little bit of a casual sports fan. It happens in the Olympics all the time where you suddenly find a passion for swimming for like 4 days, and it's our guy, bleep your guy, USA. Like there's something
you can't hold a candle to Michael Phelps.
Right? It's like,
you kidding me?
It's like name another swimmer. Oh, Ryan Lochte. Okay, name a third swimmer. That might be my list. There was an Australian going up against Phelps in 2000 and whatever it was.
Good, maybe not. I'm not sure.
But there is something really freeing about not feeling like you have to fully be one step ahead on everything. But then today I've listened to a couple of World Cup podcasts in the last 24 hours.
Wow.
Because the energy is there. And you're like, okay, well, you know what? I do want to know a little more about this. Berhalter could have gone more aggressive in the second half and tried to push it to 2-0 instead of playing defense and packing it in. I have opinions on that now. But if you really are just this is feel free not to, because what's going to happen is if you turn this game on Saturday morning, or God forbid you make it down to P&L Saturday morning, as soon as the game begins, there is a tension of just holding your breath for a team that you could not name the whole starting lineup of if you're maybe not even a few players of if you're just joining. But join in now because it's fun. This is a good. Don't get bullied for being a bandwagoner. I never in my life have had a diehard soccer person berate me for being casual about soccer. Every soccer fan who I've ever spoken to in America, I imagine this is true internationally as well, but I haven't talked to any soccer fans internationally. I'm planning on it very soon, which is exciting.
Good for you.
Every soccer fan I've ever talked to, specifically in America, where soccer fans want it to keep growing, every single time it has been a warm embrace of, yes, welcome to our sport. You can't use your hands, but it's still fun. Like that is a wonderful experience that you are, by my perspective, so totally invited into right now with this team, with this game on Saturday. We don't have to break down every second of it, but join the fun because it is breathtaking fun.
Yeah, I mean, I had a blast, and I'll be watching, and there is an element of World Cup or tournament elimination soccer
rules
that every single second is stressful.
Yes.
As opposed to, like, in a playoff game, you're stressed at the beginning, but even if a team goes down and scores a touchdown and then gets a field goal and they're up 10-0 in the first quarter, you still got 3.5 quarters to go, and it's a playoff game, so you feel like you're good enough to be right back in it. You're down 2-0 early in a soccer match. Well, in a playoff game, like, they can't just take knees.
Right.
But
Right.
you can park the bus. You can put everybody back there and make it really difficult for you to even get shots on goal and attempts, and all of a sudden it just becomes a game where you're pulling out your hair. So, yeah, that makes it all the more interesting. So, total noob and just sort of, casual for me, and being so casual with the strategy and everything like that, and really being someone that flies in during the World Cup and just embraces it and loves it and wraps myself in the American flag and all of that. I am sort of surprised at the reaction of Berhalter as the manager, that they're playing in the knockout round 4 years after they didn't qualify, and a lot of the reaction is, well, imagine how good this team's going to be when Berhalter's gone, when they actually get a good manager in there. Like, the last 4 matches against Mexico, which, again, I watched the USA-Mexico matches.
Sure.
They're 3-0-1 with Berhalter against Mexico, not in friendlies, in matches that mattered. 3-0-1, and then the second time in U.S. history in the World Cup where they didn't lose in the group stage. Not that just made it out. They didn't have a loss in the second time ever that's ever happened. And it's like, oh, this guy sucks. Can't wait till he's out. And I'm like, well, I'm not getting involved in that because there are plenty of other strategy reasons, or everybody's pissed off about Reyna not playing, enough. And was Reyna mad in the video? Look how happy Pulisic is. Oh, wait, there was a second and a half of Reyna that was walking, and he did not look happy. He looked annoyed. So he must be frustrated, and now everything's going to fall apart at the seams, and it's all Berhalter's fault, and I can't wait till he's fired, because then I'll actually be able to enjoy the games. I don't know. It's an interesting experience of what we do when we are fully 100% invested in the other sports, as in the middle of a wild card game where Ned Yost is freaking fired.
Yep.
Get him the hell out. This team hasn't made the playoffs since 1985. This guy got him to the playoffs, but he's the worst. Fire his ass right now. Put him on a rocket to the moon. Get him out of fire him right now. Dayton, go down to the he brought in Ace instead of his amazing bullpen that I believe can get this team to the World Series. That's what I've always said. I feel like this bullpen is good enough. This team can make the World Series and even win it if they just get past this wild card game, but Ned Yost ruined it by bringing in Yordano Ventura. Fire him in the middle of a wild card game that was just so beautiful.
Brandon Staley might make the playoffs, and we're all going to have the conversation of would Justin Herbert be better? They have to make a change offensively. I think if Staley sticks around, I bet Lombardi probably gets the can. But we're going to have one of those conversations. You're going to say, well, wasn't their offense pretty good? If you are looking from the outside, if you're watching it closely, you're going to say, oh, God, they're wasting Justin Herbert. I don't have enough on the Berhalter side of things to decode it either.
I don't either. I've enjoyed watching them. I know that they're winning now. And I know that they got a really exciting young team, and I'm pumped for
the youth is the
what's
big
coming
thing.
up on Saturday, and I'm pumped for years from now when we get to host and watch some of these matches at Arrowhead Stadium. That's going to be great. Cannot wait for all of those things. And look, maybe he is an awful manager, and he's just riding a really good group of players, and just happened to take. If Bruce Arena were still the manager, then they'd be in the exact same spot, or maybe even better. I don't know. I know they're playing on Saturday in the knockout round, and it's been a while since that happened. And I just hope, one, that they win, and two, if they don't let it be an extra stoppage time or added time in heartbreaking fashion like the last two times they've got to the round of 16 when they lost to Ghana in stoppage time, the winning goal, and then lost to Belgium in the added extra time with the whole Wondolowski debacle that could have moved him on, and it didn't happen, and he missed the goal. And unfortunate that, I know him more for that than the other great games and goals he scored. But that's such as life, such as sports on the highest level. Escobar is known for the own goal against the United States and then ultimately being killed when he got back to his home country. So there's a lot of things that, that were fun about yesterday and stressful about yesterday. And I am pumped for Saturday morning, whatever time it starts. Time it starts.
You mentioned Arrowhead. That's one more thing. If you're watching the World Cup right now, pay attention to the energy that's currently happening around the sport, and then remember that in 4 years it's going to be 15 minutes from here.
Oh, my buddy who is my go-to when it comes to soccer betting, writes for Covers. He's in England right now. When the United States was, or when Kansas City got one of the host sites, he texted me. He goes, "You cool with me camping in your backyard for 2 weeks?"
Yep.
So, dude, we got a spare bedroom, man. He's like, "Well, I'll need it for 2 weeks." Then I'm like, "Yeah, all good.
Yep, welcome in.
All good. Yes, you won't be the only one. From different parts of the country that we're friends with that are going to say, hey, you mind if I come and crash there for a few days? Yeah, go ahead.
You got a
Awesome.
futon?
Looking forward to it. Please, come on." Everybody's invited. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We haven't got into Melvin Gordon signing with the Chiefs and what that means for the backfield for Kansas City, what it means for maybe the seriousness of Clyde Edwards-Helaire's injury or the future of Clyde Edwards-Helaire with this Chiefs team. And then I have gone back and watched, since I moved back in 2019, I've watched every single Chiefs game at least twice. So at least twice.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Super Bowl loss to the Bucs.
Is the streak in danger?
I watched the Bengals game. You know what? I did the condensed game Monday afternoon with the Rams.
Okay.
Very quickly.
Okay, all right.
But I bring it up because I had not watched the Bengals game in the playoffs.
Oh, really?
Until last night.
Okay.
So I did watch the Bengals game from the championship last year, which there was no reason for me to ever watch it again. There's no way I was going to watch that damn thing again. I was just going to talk about it, complain, and yell the next day about how Andy Reid should have been fired. No, I'm joking. Not the case. But I did do that, and I found something really fascinating about the quote-unquote Bengals defense, and they're dropping 8 and playing against Mahomes, and the whole second half what they were doing. I was shocked, I tell you.
Woo.
Shocked.
Woo-hoo!
To figure this out while I was watching that last night with also the Mizzou-Wichita State game on mute. Watching that one as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling more zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So let's actually get into it without the sarcasm.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Cynthia, Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, coming up at 11 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, TBD. Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director at 1 o'clock. Shot clock reviews, all that still to come right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Can we hear Patrick Mahomes on Sunday after the game against the Rams? It was already time to move on, and Vahe was doing that. Vahe was playing the role of, you guys still caring about the Rams? The game's over. It's been over for like 15 minutes. Why have we not turned the page to the Bengals? You know what? I'll go ahead and do this for everybody. I'll be the guy. I'll be the one. I'll go ahead and fall on that grenade. I'll do that.
Vahe Gregorian, Bill Belichick, on to Cincinnati, handshaking emoji. I mean, those two guys have so much in common.
Spider-Man meme, just pointing at each other.
Vahe and
On to
Belichick,
Cincinnati.
just basically the same person.
Because neither wanted to talk about the Kansas City game that had just taken place.
Right.
We don't care about the Kansas City game and what happened in that. It's on to Cincinnati.
That might be the end of the personality similarities for those two, just in case anybody listening hasn't met Vahe, which I imagine is many people.
That's right. Neither cared about the Chiefs game that was just played and only cared about Cincinnati. Let's hear.
Vahe was wearing a cutoff hoodie, actually, which was a weird look for him.
Just wanted to play the role, man. Just got to play the role. Get fully invested, man. Don't half-ass it. All right, here's Patrick Mahomes in what he remembers about that awful, awful day in Kansas City last year in the AFC Championship game.
I mean, it's not a good place. I mean, they beat us. I played terrible in the second half, and we lost at home. That could have sent us to the Super Bowl. So we'll be ready to go this next week for sure.
You took a little something away from it in particular, though, in terms of what you learned?
Yeah, I mean, you learn that you got to just continue to push. You can't be satisfied with where you're at. We scored a lot of points in the first half. We went in kind of thinking we were going to just kind of coast to the Super Bowl, but they're a team that's going to fight. So they're going to fight to the very end. That's why they were in the Super Bowl, and so we have to make sure that we go in with two great halves of football and however long it takes.
I don't think they went into the second. I mean, he said that you got to keep pushing, can't be satisfied with what you have. I don't think the second half was a satisfied feeling of, hey, you know what, guys, we're going to go out there, but we've already done enough. We're good. I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, the first drive was ended by a drop pass by Kelsey. I don't think when the ball's in the air, Kelsey's going, 21's enough. I'm good. I don't really need to go and catch this ball. It was also marred by that play was the play in which Creed Humphrey snapped the ball and rolled it back to Mahomes. And he had to pick it up and run around and look, and then he finds Kelsey, but it almost looked like he didn't really have a grip, that he had to just float it up to Kelsey, and maybe that threw the whole timing off with Kelsey and catching the ball. But I don't think Creed before the snap was like, 3rd down and 3, 21's enough.
I'm just going to roll this one.
Let's just roll it back there. You know what? We've done anything we've wanted to this point. Let's see if we can roll the ball back to the quarterback and get chunks of yards. Let's have some fun. Let's have more pieces of flair here. All right.
Creed suspiciously puts his hand up over his ear hole and goes, "What's that?"
Oh.
Somebody at Buffalo Wild Wings pushed the button. All right. I mean, I signed. It's in my contract.
I guess the Bengals need to get back in this game, everybody. Let's get wild and crazy. So I don't think when hearing from Patrick Mahomes say, the lesson is you got to keep pushing, you got to play two halves same way, you got to, not be satisfied with whatever you do in the first half. I don't think that was the case. I just think they played a terrible, terrible second half. Well, check that. I think they had some terrible plays that they didn't take advantage of, or they had themselves, offense and defense as well. Defense had Joe Burrow wrapped up, Chris Jones did, in the third quarter on what was 2nd down and 10 and would have been 3rd and 17. Would have been a punt. The Chiefs had given up 10 points at that point, and really the only touchdown was the 40-plus yard screen pass to Samaje Perine. Other than that, the defense had played pretty damn stout, and they did on that drive. No gain for Joe Mixon. Joe Burrow sacked, but he escapes from that, spins out of it, and runs for a first, or throws the ball down the field to Jamar Chase for 23 yards. If he's sacked, again, it's 3rd and 17. Instead, it's a 23-yard pass. They get a field goal on that drive because they don't do anything after that. They end up settling for a field goal. That's one play. You make that one play, you're off the field. That's 3 points off the board. Nick Bolton had an interception that he talked about all offseason. Intercept the ball, Chiefs get the ball right back, still up 21-13 at that point. Very next play on 3rd down and long, Chris Jones has Joe Burrow. That's in the 4th quarter. That's when they were going right to left. That's the one that people have talked the most about. He slips through the sack, picks up 8 yards on 3rd down and 7. They move the chains. The very next 3rd and long, Melvin Ingram busts through, has Joe Burrow. Burrow runs right past him up the middle, picks up 15 yards for a 1st down. And, they end up at that point, was that the touchdown drive? Or was that no, that was the last field goal. That was the field goal to make it 24-21. Because the touchdown drive was based off the interception from Patrick Mahomes on 2nd and 3 when they just picked up 7 yards handing the ball off. And watching that play again, that was an obvious RPO that everybody thought was a run. That the read was run. Because Creed Humphrey, when Mahomes threw the ball, was 5 yards down the field. And Andrew Wiley was right behind him, 4 yards down the field, going to the next level. And Orlando Brown was right behind him, not next to each other, but across the field, 3 yards down the field, going to the next level. That was we're going to run this RPO, snap it. All right, here's the read. We're now getting to the next level because this is an obvious handoff. Oh, wait, it's an interception? What happened? It's a terrible play. Terrible decision by Patrick Mahomes because even on the RPO, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce were wide open on the other side of the field. Not sure what was going on, but they intercept the pass. And then on 3rd down, Burrow and Chase make a great play. They beat Rashad Fenton, make a great play. So there are so many plays in there along the way that you look at and go, if this had been made, if that had been made, the whole conversation about the second half and what the hell happened is gone. And you can talk about, boy, they almost got beat, but they went on and we're talking about whatever happened in the Super Bowl and whether they are the reigning Super Bowl champions. They've been to 3 in a row. Are they 2-1? Are they 1-2? And they need to get another Super Bowl to really be a dynasty, even though they've gone to 3 in a row. Like the conversation would obviously be much different, but those plays were not made. Mahomes in the second half had multiple plays on 3rd down where he had all day to throw. And he ran into a sack. All day to throw. Left a clean pocket. Throws it away. All day to throw. What's he going to do? I'm getting antsy. Well, let me run to my right. Okay, well, now you've created the sideline as a defender. And you get over there and you've got to throw it away. That happened multiple times in the second half. And so I go back and watch it, and it's so frustrating through the entire game. The first half is frustrating to watch because you know how easy they move down the field. Mm-hmm. And the second half is obviously frustrating to watch because looking back and seeing what the defense actually was able to do, because they got an interception, L'Jarius Sneed did, after a punt by the Chiefs in the, I think, late 3rd quarter or early 4th quarter. They got the interception by L'Jarius Sneed. They get the ball back. They don't score.
They made the play. Like, that's one of the... They right. made the play there.
Joe Mixon did nothing until overtime. Joe Mixon did nothing until overtime. And then he had the 2 big runs in overtime. The one that set up the 2nd and 2, and the other one that he fumbled on, gave himself up. Whatever one of the final plays of the game. Like the defensive line was stout and ready to go. Jamar Chase did not have some crazy game. He had the 23-yard catch that was based off the Burrow should have been sack, and then he was open because of that. And then he had the great play on Rashad Fenton on 3rd down, but he also got stuffed by Rashad Fenton on 2nd down when Rashad Fenton knocked the ball away. 3rd down, he won. They went back to him. He's a great player. Those are the things that happen. Like so many opportunities to where that game may not have even been close, but yet it was, and it was a loss. So frustration all around just simply watching that. And I can't imagine the Chiefs watch that and go, yeah, the better team won that day. Yeah, we got to do this, we got to do that. Like they know they're the better team, but they're also the better team that is hunting the team that beat them twice last year. That the Bengals are not the better team this year than the Chiefs, personnel-wise, 1 through 53. But they are the team that's already beaten the Chiefs twice. Mm-hmm. And now they play at home, and it's a big game for them, but they've already beaten this team twice. They should do better in the first half, probably. That's probably what they're saying. Let's not get down by a bunch of points in the first half. But we know what this team's going to do, and we're ready for them.
I think what you've sort of decoded there is something that's often true.
I don't think I decoded anything.
I think you did. Let me give you the credit. It's free. All you have to do is take it.
Drink your Ovaltine.
Is right. You got your ring out and you went through the film again. And I think what it shows is that, as is often the case in the NFL, we get big overarching storylines that are built by individual bricks of one play after another. And then I like building houses on the show this week, I guess. A lot of house building analogies.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you build a house out of these individual plays, and then you zoom out and go, whoa, where did that house come from? Well, it came from, you hear Mahomes talking about the tale of two halves. It's not because, like, they were trying less. It's because the Chiefs had that 14-play drive to kick the field goal that tied it at the end of regulation. But before that, in the second half, their drives went 5 plays, 5 plays, 2 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays. The halves were different for execution reasons, not for strategy ones. Like, the last 3 drives before that field goal drive ended on a pick and then a third down sack that you've already talked about, and then another third down sack. So Mahomes can say he played a terrible second half and be totally reasonable about it, but we want to extrapolate that into, like, oh, so what did the Chiefs do wrong? What the Chiefs did wrong is they had execution errors that if they make half as many, and still make plenty, but if they make half as many, they probably win that game in regulation because of how well they played in that first half. So there's some coaching and adjustment to the adjustment, but ultimately, when you cannot find a way to make a play for a team that got to that point by making those big plays, you start extrapolating into some sort of blueprint or some sort of poison pill for this Chiefs offense that I don't think existed then, and I don't think it exists now. They just can't play their worst 5 drives of the season all consecutively this time.
So we'll take a break, and I want you to think about something when it comes to the defense that I had talked about and teased for this hour. We'll get to it next segment. I want you to think about something and think how many times the Bengals defense went into the dropping 8, only bringing 3 guys in the second half. I want you to think about a number that may come to mind for you as you think back to that game. We'll do that next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I was only thinking about myself.
And I was only thinking about myself. And welcome to The Zone, everybody, here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk more about this, I promise you, throughout the next few days. The question I asked Josh Brisco as we were going to break was, think back to that second half of the game against the Bengals, and you can come up and tell me what the number of plays are that the Bengals dropped 8 against the Chiefs in the second half. And we figured out that they run either 34 or 35 in the second half and overtime combined. We'll go with 34, whatever you want.
I think that might be including the punts. I think it was 32 or 33 offensive plays, something, yeah.
Yeah, so
low 30s.
Yeah, so with overtime. So what's the number, do you think, in the second half that the Bengals dropped 8 and brought 3?
The fact that you're asking the question sort of taints the pool a little bit, but I even went back and looked at like some of the play situations. If I'm not thinking about it too hard, I think I could make a realistic case for saying about half of those plays they could have been dropping 8. Because you're asking, I bet it's under that. But if I said about a dozen or so snaps, that would feel about right to me. Narratively, I think you would assume that was about 20 of them. It's going to be single digits, isn't it?
Almost. They brought only 3 and dropped 8 10 times.
Okay.
10 times.
All right.
But here's what really stood out. Of the 10 times they brought only 3 and dropped 8, 8 of the 10 were on second down. Only twice did they drop 8 on third down in the second half against the Chiefs. Twice. That is obviously seeing a trend, right? Yeah. And here are the plays. 2nd and 4, pass. 2nd and 6, pass. 2nd and 6, handoff to McColl on an end around, 2nd and 6, pass. 2nd and 3, pass. 2nd and 10, pass. 2nd and 6, pass. 2nd and 5, pass. 2nd and 2, run. 2nd and 1, run. 2nd and 6, pass. 2nd and 4, pass. Anytime the Chiefs had a second down and longer than 3 or more yards, they dropped 8. And the Chiefs didn't hand it off.
That's crazy.
Once.
That's nuts. That's a great stat.
Didn't hand it off to a running back.
Yeah.
Once. Not once. Those second down plays went for 6 yards and a first down, incomplete. First down, incomplete, interception, incomplete, short of the first down marker, short of the first down marker, run, short of the first down marker, first down, scramble, short of the first down marker, sack.
Not to make this a don't draft a running back high victory lap, but like that is the situation where a team would say, this is why we're investing in a running back.
Yeah.
I say that to say this time, Isaiah Pacheco is a pretty easy handoff in those situations.
The thing is, though, how many of those did Mahomes just turn down? Were they
right? I don't know.
I don't know that.
Don't know.
Were they RPOs? Were they not? Not sure. But clearly the Bengals saw something the Chiefs did, and they got them.
There's only one. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Because there are more better, this is bad English, there are more better quarterbacks.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs later on this hour. Of course, it'll be a lot about the Bengals game a year ago, or less than a year ago. The one that's very forgettable. Just an awful day in Kansas City. Talking with Cynthia Frelund, now NFL Network analytics expert, who we had a conversation with after that game as well, that we were forced to talk about it, Cynthia. But you know what? It became therapeutic to talk about it that week, and I watched the game again, Cynthia, last night for the first time, because there's no reason for me to watch it again after the end of the season. And it was therapeutic as well, again, to kind of, move on and kind of get over that thing and get ready for 2022 and not feel like if you beat the Bengals, then that also counts for winning in the AFC Championship game, damn it. Ha-ha!
Look,
but it doesn't.
That game was an interesting one, but you got to remember this time around, there's a couple of major differences. Number one, there's a bunch of injuries to that Bengals defense that when I look at the Bengals run last season, right, we made a whole big thing on game day morning this past week about how the Bengals stats look pretty similar going into week 12. And then, of course, week 12, they get that win over Tennessee, which was maybe more likely that Tennessee lost that one. I mean, repping the center, like there's random stuff, like crazy stuff, right? So, the defense is incredibly banged up. Their O-line, they spent a lot of money, but I don't know if I think it's significantly improved. And I do think that we will see Jamar Chase play, but I don't know. The deep pass has not looked quite the same.
Yeah, look, it's. I want to talk more about this game in a little bit with you and sort of get your thoughts, and obviously I want to hear the prediction of what the simulation says. But one of the things we've talked about is the importance of this game, not just sort of, exorcising any demons that might be there or the Chiefs wanting to get back at the Bengals or anything like that. It's significant because I don't know what the simulations and the percentages would say, but I'd have to feel like it's a pretty strong percentage that if the Chiefs were to get by the Bengals this weekend and get a win and be 10-2 with their remaining schedule, that it's, not all but it's a strong high percentage of the Chiefs getting the 1 seed if they win on Sunday.
Yeah, the Chiefs' schedule is at the beginning of the season, we thought it was quite front-loaded. As it turns out, a number of these teams weren't exactly who we thought they were. The Rams, maybe being the biggest example of that, because if you would have told me ahead of the season that, it'd be Bryce Perkins when you saw the Chiefs, I don't think anyone would have believed me. So, that, obviously you see that happen, and now it's like, okay, well, they got through what was perceived to be the hard part, and if they can get past this test, it does feel like a really strong, and the model does forecast a very strong likelihood that the bye and the number 1 seed belong to Kansas City should they get through this game.
How surprising is that to you? Going back to the beginning of the season, we've kind of talked about this a little bit too the last couple of weeks on the show, in that this was thought to be kind of a step back season, a little step back season for the Chiefs in terms of their own internal personnel and how good they can be, while other teams were making big steps up to lessen that gap that's there, narrow the gap between the Chiefs and Bills and then everybody else. And in a year where that was thought to be the case, we're 12 weeks into the season, and the Chiefs are the heavy favorites to, get the 1 seed or be the 1 or 2 seed. And they have now surpassed the Bills at DraftKings for the, winning the conference and now the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl. In a year where we thought they would take a step back, how surprised would you have been at the beginning of the season? And maybe not at all, I don't know. But how surprised would you have been at the beginning of the season if you said, look, the AFC West, how good it is, the Chiefs trading Tyreek Hill, they got a bunch of rookies, but 12 weeks in, they'll be 9-2 and have the number 1 seed by a full game, and they'll be facing off against the Bengals. And if they win that one, they're probably the 1 seed, and they're the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone would have been like, I think it's a little nuts. I don't think anyone forecast this Russell Wilson nightmare that was, I think most people thought that they would at least be competitive, but the Broncos have been pretty non-competitive. I think, I think every year injuries are always a problem, and while the Chargers have a really strong roster, it seems like they can't keep the same starters or a consistent set of starters on the field year over year. They have, if you were to look at that thing on paper and then what gets fielded, it's just markedly different. So that's interesting too. And then, of course, the Raiders, I think maybe some people were high on the Raiders because of Devontae Adams, but I have receipts there that I still thought they were going to be fourth. But I also think that, nobody really expected the Jets to have the season that they've had. And kind of that surprise situation there in the East did make things more enticing. And then while the Dolphins were sort of like a bubble, nobody really knew what to expect from Tua. They've outperformed, I think, what, season expectations ahead of the season were for them. So, it's just a good example of how in the NFL, the worst team to the first team is not as big of a difference as it seems. And each one of those wins are really important. So, some of those games that the Bills dropped and I say dropped because confounding weird. They almost lost to the Lions, which is, an interesting one, right? So, and they've got a bunch of injuries too. So between the injury bug and a little bit of just little tiny slivers of difference. Look, the Jets defense was the worst in the NFL last season. And to go from worst to top 10 in almost every category, that doesn't often happen. So, those are the types of things that create significant differences in everyone's season.
Who's the biggest threat in the AFC behind the Chiefs and the Bills, do you think?
It's going to sound weird because they obviously lost last week, but there's something about the Ravens. Like the Ravens and the Dolphins, to me, both have some really interesting notes about each one. And the Ravens, they can't seem to field a completely healthy team either. So it'll be interesting. If they get Ronnie Stanley back at left tackle, that just really changed the ability for Lamar Jackson to run. And they just get one or two of those guys. Mark Andrews has been out for a number of games, and if he can start catching some passes reliably and stay on the field, that changes things for the Ravens. And same thing with the Dolphins. If their secondary can get a little bit healthier, they obviously have all those weapons in Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. It seems like they're in a good space now with Tua being, just very, very productive and very reliable. So the two of them have these, this profile of if you played the game 10 times, the Bills and Chiefs are going to come out ahead in terms of the number of wins. But you could get that one random day where, maybe it'd be 70% of the time it would be Chiefs or Bills win. But you can get that one random day where the 30% happens. And that's kind of how that division feels, or that whole conference feels.
Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, is our guest. So let's talk about the Chiefs. One of the conversations we've had this week and topics we've been discussing is, the punt return, and Sky Moore is not going to be returning punts anymore. I can't imagine that would be the case with his third muffed punt, but he's been just fine as a wide receiver, so I'm good with him staying at that spot. I am team fair catch everything, especially when Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I am team, credit one of the callers we had earlier this season that said punt return should be like the Hippocratic Oath. At first, do no harm. Make sure no matter what, Patrick Mahomes touches the ball once the defense gets a stop. What is the risk reward of the punt return versus do you muff it? Is there a penalty? Is it too extreme of the fair catch every time team that I am on? Is that too extreme of a stance to have? And are there tangible advantages to being able to return a punt and get those extra yards?
Over the long run, the risk reward situation for the fair catch every time versus trying to run it back, you're totally right. The problem is that teams are trying to win now, and a lot of times, and this might not sound like the nicest thing ever, but a lot of times the people who play on teams aren't necessarily your starters, and they're not necessarily guys who you're fielding in your regular sets for, and you're looking for a spark. You're looking for something different. If you're going to throw a guy out there who is one of your regular, one of your 11 offensive starters or whatever, then you're going to ask them to do something special. You're asking them to create a difference in the game. And it is a source of injuries. It's a source of, they've obviously been tinkering with the rules for a while now. So there's clearly something there that's not great, but not every team, remember, has Patrick Mahomes. So you got to these rules aren't made for just the Chiefs, right? Like they're made for everyone. So it's interesting. Like we were talking about the Jets, right? The Jets have been great on special teams, which has been helping them between their defense and special teams. Before they switched to Mike White, like they were kind of getting these weird statistics where like they were like one of the only teams since the merger where they didn't even have like a 75 passer rating and were managing to win games. So those are the types of teams that need it. If you're the Chiefs, you don't necessarily need it. And it's just like a we've done this forever type of thing.
Well, and we looked it up. Josh looked it up. Top 10 in the NFL in punt return yardage is just under 10 yards per punt return, which is a first down, which I think matters for a lot of teams, but may not matter as much for the Chiefs. I mean, look, a 60-yard touchdown drive is easier than a 70-yard touchdown drive. But I think over the course of the season, that can almost become negligible with the Chiefs specifically, whereas Sky Moore is averaging 6 yards per punt return, but you don't know if he's going to catch it or not. And, even if he was top 10, he would be picking up 3.5 yards more per punt return.
Yep.
And so does that matter, those 3.5 yards, or even just the 10 yards overall to go from fair catching it with a team like Patrick Mahomes? And let me offer the devil's advocate, which the afternoon show has brought up, and he said, and I think it's an interesting one to talk with you about. And he said, well, he'll play devil's advocate and say, I'll make a case that it would be more worthwhile with Patrick Mahomes, that you would take more chances and return the punts and get bigger, difference-making plays, because Mahomes is a player that can overcome a mistake that may happen in the game. So it might be more advantageous, whereas a muffed punt could be a death knell for another team. Does that make sense, the devil's advocate to Patrick Mahomes, maybe you do take more chances because it's Mahomes as opposed to less risk, just put 15 out there?
I think, again, each game is a different situation. Maybe the best way to say it is like you're lucky this is the problem that you have because like a lot of teams think this isn't even like in consideration, right?
Yeah, right.
So when I'm you'd have to say like the situational aspect of it, like, are you playing in a playoff game and, this is a team that they, for whatever, I think of like some Tennessee games in the playoffs where like they're just a ball control type of situation and now you're down and you need an extra, so maybe you take a different tack at that point. But I think, I would say like, let's not like, sure, Patrick can overcome flaws on special teams, but like, do you really want that to be like the thing he's doing? Because like, I don't know if that's where I think if you were to ask Andy Reid, like, okay, don't, not a specific game, not this specific game, like not this Tennessee down situation where the ball control against you, but rather, just what's going on in general. Like, are you, what would you really in a neutral moment say? He would be like, no, like, we're not going to do that. Like, let's just take the catch and move on. And that would be my guess because, go with the thing that ensures like the best opportunity for you to call a play that would make sense, not rely on some sort of problem to change the game script in any way.
Visiting with Cynthia, Frelund NFL Network analytics expert. So goal-to-go situation is something that came up in the game against the Rams. The last 3 times the Chiefs went down inside the red zone, they had goal-to-go situations, and they came out 0 for 3 with touchdowns, including a turnover in there as well. This is not something that has been an issue for the Chiefs this year, so it's not like I'm saying, well, how do they fix this? But I'm just curious, like goal-to-go situations, is it, is there a lot of noise in there? Is there a consistency from year to year where maybe third down or red zone percentage may float back and forth from year to year? Is it noise, or is there something that is quantifiable for teams that are good or bad when it comes to converting goal-to-go situations into touchdowns?
I think goal situations matter. I think that in that specific case, like look at the play that was called. Do you think that's Andy Reid's best? Like you think he's showing you his best opportunity to convert, or do you think he's saying, all right, this game is in hand. We're going to do the thing that makes the most sense for us to not put on paper against our next opponents? Because remember, the way that most people prep for games is to watch the 4 previous games that the team has played, and then maybe 1 or 2 games that that have like against them previously. You think he's going to give Lou Anarumo a heads up on what his goal-to-go situations are against the Bengals next week? Because I certainly know he's not.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that has to do with what was called and why it was called, as opposed to like, we should look at these as indicative of like what they're really trying to do. The situation didn't dictate that they needed anything special there. So why would you show them the special stuff that you have cooking, especially in a season where we've seen Patrick Mahomes throw take the fewest deep attempts we've seen in a while? Like, are you gonna try to show anything special that might be a clue as to where they're going next?
Yeah, that was something that came up on Monday. Is just how vanilla that was. Was it vanilla? Was it something that Andy Reid, the Chiefs? I know they had the handoff to Sky Moore, throwing back to Mahomes, and then throwing the ball. I mean, that was so. It's like, could they be vanilla if they threw that play out there? Yeah, they can, because they can put that play out there and say, hey, you know what? Now that's on film. So when somebody goes in motion, maybe you should worry about the backside. That doesn't necessarily mean this guy's going to turn the corner and go for the end zone. He may turn and throw it back to Mahomes, who may throw it down the field. So just something else to worry about. While other plays were, let's just hand the ball off. Because late in the game, the goal-to-go situation, when they got to 1st and goal at the 9, they handed the ball off 3 times. They picked up 5 yards with Pacheco against the Rams defense, but the Rams knew they were going to run it. Chiefs knew, were perfectly fine running it, kick the field goal, go up 16, cover, and then win the game. So I don't really put too much into that final goal-to-go situation. And again, they have converted this year. Mahomes has converted this year. So I don't think it's an issue specifically for the Chiefs. I was just curious how much it's like, just noise in general that may happen one game to the next where, boy, you were 1 for 3 in goal-to-go situations and you were 4 for 4 last week. And, is it what that defense did? Is it one way or another? Or is it, you made a play in this game, you didn't make a play in that one. This defense ran that. And so sometimes it fluctuates and it's not necessarily a stat or something that week in and week out is something you can hang your hat on.
Oh yeah, league wide, absolutely not. Especially because the Lions have think about the Lions specifically, they're just never in goal to go situations. So I mean, if you only have 7 attempts, of course your stats are going to look weird. And then so it's a lot of the context that's needs to give you to enough. You need to roll the dice enough times for it to be something where the number of N, right, the attempts is large enough for the data to actually tell you something. So that's the type of thing where, and of course the type of defense matters, but also so does the score and so does the time left. And, does the clock manage, look at I think of the Colts clock management on Monday. I know they weren't in a goal-to-go situation, but that clock management was very poor. You think that the same thing's going to happen again? No, I would imagine that they won't do that again, which means that one piece of data, it was great for that particular game for the opposing team, for the Steelers, but it's not going to be indicative of you can't rely on someone to make crazy decisions going forward.
Visiting with Cynthia, Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. So trying to think of a way to bring this up in discussion with you and ask the question of, what the bigger impact would be between, say, trading Tyreek Hill, which they did, and got draft picks back, and having Patrick Mahomes on the offense and seeing the offense is really good. And then one of the conversations that's come up this year in how dominant Chris Jones has been. He's got 1 year left on his contract next year, so you're either going to trade him or extend him, because I would guess he would hold out and want a new contract and be the highest paid defensive tackle because it's his turn, and he is playing brilliant football right now, just dominant football, the best of his career, so he's earned it. The Tyreek Hill trade took place, and we see that now, what the offense looks like in having different guys to throw to and stuff like that. Is Chris Jones and trading him in the same boat of, well, you save the cap space and you get the draft picks and you can use them elsewhere, or is it actually a more detrimental to the Chiefs defense losing Chris Jones than it was to the Chiefs offense losing Tyreek Hill?
So the value of Chris Jones to the defense is significantly more impactful than Tyreek Hill. Now, I will say life is always about substitutes and what you think you can do for it. So, and we have to give Brett Veach so much credit because he's clearly had great drafts where he's found deals and steals and he's figured it out. But replacing someone, it's like, look, Patrick changes the way that the offense is run, and Chris Jones changed the way that the defense is run. So I don't I don't have the list of available substitutes for how they view they could recreate this situation for them. I will say there are spaces where the defense could improve, absolutely, but I don't think you get the same net benefit of not signing him as you do Tyreek Hill. And all credit to Tyreek, he's a wonderful receiver. Like, everybody knows that. There's no denying that he changed the opportunity for Tua Tagovailoa completely. But the reality is that the available substitutes at the wide receiver position just are so much stronger than the available substitutions at the defensive tackle position, especially for this type of defense in this division, in this conference.
Yeah, it just the way he's playing right now. I went into this year thinking this was the last year for Chris Jones as a Chief. And, 12 weeks into the season, and I'm thinking there's no way you can not have Chris Jones on the team next year and the year after that and the year after that. And also it seems like, you get to that age 30. The three in front, the three being the first number in your age is significant in the NFL. Is it, is it as significant now as it used to be? Are we seeing defensive tackles and even defensive ends play at a higher level longer than we've seen them in the past, to where, a 1980s, 1990s defensive tackle that's 30, 31 is not the same as a 2022, 2023, 24 defensive tackle that's 30, 31, 32 years old, which is what Chris Jones would be if they extend him this offseason.
Yeah, first of all, you're seeing huge differences, like, at every position about longevity and the ability for people to play longer. Now, I will say there's an asterisk there, because certain injuries, you have to always, certain injuries do not forecast for great longevity. So they just don't. But if you don't have those injuries, the overall number of years that you're having really productive, really amazing seasons is great. And especially, like Chris Jones, think about what he needs to do, right? He needs to burst off the line of scrimmage very, very fast. He doesn't need to have, endurance to run, 60 routes in a game at top speed. So even though that burst is, it's different muscle fibers and twitch and all these different things that, people who are very well versed in this stuff can tell you better than me. But I do notice, and there is, less, it can be less effective for longer for people who have to run endurance distances and endure hits as well. That is that one, it is it's going to be much rarer to see a receiver with top end speed last in this to the same degree and length of time as a position where you're asking for more quick bursts and twitch, because they have to remember, they have to run for a long time and get hit, whereas this guy's just getting quick power and hit. So it's also, there's some positional value in that as well.
What are the injuries that you said certain injuries impact the longevity for a player? What are the injuries that you look at and say are the impactful ones for longevity? Achilles
injuries have been really, really hard for people to have, come back from. Not to say that they can't, but just the, people who tear Achilles have harder times. And then certain types of, if you have two ACLs before a certain age, or two, the same ACL in the same leg twice, that one can be hard as well. It changes your top end speed.
Interesting. Cynthia Frelund, our guest, NFL Network analytics expert. All right, what do you think of the Chiefs and Bengals game coming up on Sunday in this matchup of two of the bigger contenders in the AFC?
I think Jamar Chase comes back, and I think that's an interesting one because, we've seen him not play for a couple of weeks. And I think that the offense will be fun. It's going to be a fun game to watch, but it'll be even more fun if you're a Chiefs fan than if you're a Bengals fan. And I know that the game takes place in Cincinnati, so they'll get the first-hand look at it. But I don't think that there's any way that this defense, especially missing Chidobe Awuzie, is going to be able to handle all the different things that happen. And I was even looking, and I even think that I know he's been folded in because he's been hurt, but I think this is like a Juju Smith-Schuster touchdown game.
Okay, Juju Smith-Schuster anytime touchdown game. Okay, have that one. Is there a margin, a range of Chiefs winning this one?
I do. Hold on, I can look it up right now for you because I did this one already. I know that it is a nice one. I think I want to say 5, but I just want to double check for you on this one. Yeah, no, I have 4. So it's 29.6 to 25.6. So 4 points. I understand the 0.6 throws people off, but it's a 4-point win.
No, I mean, you can get why can't you get a 0.6 point? I think you should be able to.
People get real mad about that, and I'm like, guys, it's the expected value on each drive. that it turns into a touchdown or a field goal versus the expected value that it doesn't.
You know what?
That's
I think if you are 60% of the way in for a field goal, like if it hits the upright and it barely misses, that's you know what? That's 0.6 of a point. You know, you should get if you hit the upright, it's 0.5.
Think about that, what that would do for gambling. Are you kidding me? Now a half point in a game, suddenly that hook.
Now you're just tying. Now there's no bet.
Yeah.
I had them over under 29.6, and they hit 29, so now it's a no bet. I just wish Butker would have had it just a little bit more inside the goalpost, because then it would have been 29.7, but it was not. So a 4-point win for the Chiefs, and that's that's significant when you're talking about a team on the road against a Bengals team that's pretty good, winning by that margin in your simulations. So
look, remember, people again, simulations are interesting because. Like, obviously, no one's going to score those points. People get so mad at me all the time I mention who scored 25 to 22? And I'm like, no. That's the way simulations work. Like, you're not going to get a normal number. It means, like, the most likely score is probably in reality, the most likely score is probably something like 28 to 21, so a more football score, right? Like, a more, like, a normal number score. But that's not what always happens, right? You play the game a million times, you're going to get a million different results, right? So the reality is like, what are the average of all of those results?
Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, great stuff as always. Very much appreciate the time. Enjoy the football, and looking forward to our conversation next week.
Absolutely. Have a great week.
Absolutely. You too. There's Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. 4-point win for the Chiefs. So maybe not 29.6 to 25.4. Maybe closer to something like 31-27 or 28-24 around that, which would seem, it's probably where I think this one will end up, but we'll find out. Doesn't really matter to me what the final is, just simply win the game. It will be interesting to see what the conversation is on Monday, because there is an element going into the game that it's like, I don't really care. Just win. If you win 10-7, you win 10-7. You win 7-6, you win 7-6. No injuries or anything. Talking about that on Monday. You win, and then you look at the last 5 games of the regular season that's left for the Chiefs, and what the odds are of them, getting the number 1 seed if you just find a way to win this game by 1 point.
I think you're right. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I also think we might be the outliers for reasons that we can keep digging into this week.
Okay. You're an outright liar.
I think this game's going to be a funky one.
All right.
For fans even.
Okay.
A funky one to lead
Funky
up to
for
and then
fans.
hopefully enjoy. Let's get funky.
Let's do it. We'll take a
Time to
timeout.
get funky.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and continue. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up in about 20, 25 minutes from now out at Arrowhead. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
It would have been just killed a spider that was crawling on the table here. Take that, spider. Huh? Yeah. In your face. Punk.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you to Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. 4-point win she has for the Chiefs against the Bengals. So winning and covering for the Chiefs this weekend. 325 CBS for Chiefs and Bengals. So impact of special teams over the long run, the team fair catch over the course of the entire season is the right play. The risk reward that if you're going through the entire season and you fair catch every single punt, you come out positive on that. Individual games, though, maybe you need that spark. Maybe you don't. Maybe you need something to happen on special teams, and it becomes a net negative just to simply fair catch everything thrown your way. Also, Chris Jones will be at the podium today along with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. So Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones. So we'll hear from two guys that did a lot of blaming of themselves in the Bengals game last year in in Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones. Andy Reid also did, but he does that each and every loss. When in reality, it's like, the losses, certainly the coaches, will take the blame for. But Chris Jones talked about in the offseason about missing the sacks and what that meant. And Patrick Mahomes talked about the offseason about how terrible he played in the second half. So coincidentally, Chris Jones talking today, because outside of the special teams conversation, the goal-to-go situation, or a conversation that we talked about with Cynthia Frelund, the value of Chris Jones on the Chiefs defense, and if they go into this offseason and end up with the same strategy that they ultimately went with this past offseason in trading their stud player on the final year of a contract who wants an extension and wants a whole lot of money and to be the highest paid player at his position, that it was not in the cap, it was not in the plan to be able to pay him that much money. It became, untenable in terms of them being able to have a full 53-man roster. They felt with Tyreek Hill making that much money, they traded him, they got picks back, and they had to readjust. That obviously was significant and was a big, big narrative this offseason. And all we've seen is Patrick Mahomes have an MVP season, and the Chiefs' offense look really, really good, and be putting up numbers as, one of, if not the best offenses in the NFL. But it's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask Cynthia about Chris Jones is Tyreek Hill's impact on the Chiefs' offense is big, but Patrick Mahomes is there. Chris Jones' impact on the Chiefs' defense, but who is there after that? And her response was, Chris Jones' value is significantly more impactful on the Chiefs' defense than Tyreek Hill's was on the Chiefs' offense. Significantly more impactful, which would say, then shouldn't you be prioritizing him to a significant degree on how much he wants, how much you'd be willing to pay him to take care of him, so that a 29-year-old Chris Jones returns next year. And the next 3 years, it's 29, 30, 31 years old. And in today's day and age, that's not as old as we've seen in traditionally that 30-year-old number that's there. But just interesting because I don't think Chris Jones being traded in the offseason would garner near as much of a conversation back and forth around the NFL as Tyreek Hill did. But I think it would be more detrimental to the Chiefs than Tyreek Hill was. Not that Tyreek Hill wasn't a stud. Patrick Mahomes can overcome some of that. Nick Bolton and Willie Gay and those guys aren't going to, and the young secondary is not going to overcome what Chris Jones can do on the field.
I thought it was interesting just in that sort of word association game that Cynthia corresponded Chris Jones more closely to Mahomes than to Hill in sort of the impact for the unit. Now, again, no one's going to be as impactful as your quarterback. But even as somebody who generally subscribes to the idea that it's important to have a lot of good parts, you don't want to star and scrub your defense more often than not because it's a weak link game. Maybe that's true for the offensive line as well, right?
Yeah.
but you need to have one of those guys that does change how offenses plan for you.
Yeah.
And Chris Jones is that guy at as high a level as anyone in the sport right now. He might be on the same level with Micah Parsons, who's been unreal. If you really want to pick nits and say he's one and Chris Jones could never, fine. He is among the elite of the elite in the entire league this season. And this is not moving in the wrong direction for him production-wise. He looks more comfortable at edge this year when they've used him there in the more limited work. He's been dominant in the middle. And when you watch, like, again, I use Colin Saunders' name here all the time in these comparisons. I think Colin Saunders is a nice player, a physical, total anomaly, and he's had the opportunity to grow in that role. But I don't think we're talking about Colin Saunders this year if Chris Jones isn't on the team. You're talking about Colin Saunders and Derek Nottie next to each other, or even before the injury, Colin Saunders and Tershawn Wharton. I really like all those guys whose names I just mentioned. Their jobs all change drastically because Chris Jones is next to them.
If Micah Parsons did not exist, one, it'd be a lesser NFL because it's a blast watching him play because the Chiefs haven't played the Cowboys this year. And they don't play him. If they play him in the Super Bowl, then I'm not going to be a fan of number 11 for the Cowboys existing. He's minus 1,200 to win Defensive Player of the Year, is Micah Parsons. To put that into perspective, the MVP, Mahomes, is minus 160. The Defensive Player of the Year is minus 1,200, Micah Parsons. If he didn't exist, I do wonder what the betting odds would look like for the rest of them. Bosa, Judon, Chris Jones are the next three in line. In that order.
And those
Nick
are three
Bosa,
more traditional pass rushers. Parsons is a cowboy. That certainly helps. Like
Bosa, edge, Judon, edge, and then Chris Jones and Max Crosby are tied. I didn't see that. Max Crosby's listed behind Chris Jones. Maybe just the C as opposed to M.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
sure.
what they're going with.
Right.
But they're both listed at plus 2,500. So Jones and Max Crosby. So you've got edge, defensive tackle, edge.
Yeah.
There. So you're seeing the impact of what he's doing at defensive tackle.
Good point. Yep.
Without having a dominant edge out there to help him, along the way in some of that. So, yeah, he's if Micah Parsons just sat out this year for some reason, what would the Defensive Player of the Year running look like? I can tell you this. He'd still be in the mix.
Yes, it would.
Even if he was the
those
second
three
or
or
third,
four guys you just mentioned would have a legit competition for the remainder of this season.
Bosa's plus 1,100, Judon's plus 1,700, and Chris Jones is plus 2,500. So Bosa is the leader in the clubhouse, if not for Parsons, but not to a margin that it's minus 1,200 for that. There would be legit conversation about, is Chris Jones the Defensive Player of the Year? Because he is playing his best football as a 28-year-old, and I don't feel like in the NFL, the way that we viewed aging and diminished production when you get to 30, 31, 32 as the same today as we used to. So if Chris Jones is 29 years old and signs a extension and is with the Chiefs for 29, 30, and 31, yeah, you do that. You absolutely do that because Chris Jones not on the field is really, really impactful for this defense and might be the second most precious health and non-injury that the Chiefs have on this team. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll hear Andy Reid. We'll hear Patrick Mahomes. We will hear Chris Jones at the podium today talking about this Bengals team and the matchup. What are they going to do? Also, Chiefs with their practice squad signings. I'm sure Andy Reid will be asked about that, and he'll say that Veach does a great job taking care of all of those things, and we'll just see what we have. Melvin Gordon, Brian Edwards, and Brandon Williams. So, running back, wide receiver, and defensive tackle, and Melvin Gordon, which is a conversation that we still need to get into as to how impactful that is or connected to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, either injury or ineffectiveness. Edwards is an interesting receiver because, man, he makes some acrobatic catches, yet two teams have said, nah, we're good. And he's on the practice squad for a reason. Brandon Williams, to me, is a direct connection with Derek Nottie. I feel like that is Brandon Williams is a run stopper. He has been that his entire career. He's got the connection with Joe Cullen, and he's graded out pretty well. Last couple years, I think he's fallen off. But he's waited, and Ndamukong Suh just signed, and he's gone the route of Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, Brandon Williams. He signs with the Chiefs. He is a run stopper. I think that is they aren't getting out of Derek Nottie what they thought they were going to get out of Derek Nottie this year. They need somebody to either add depth or maybe eventually grow into the role of just simply playing instead of number 91 being out there and playing for the Chiefs.
And again, remember, I mentioned Tershawn Wharton. He's on IR. Obviously, his season is permanently over this year. He's not going to be one of the return candidates. And you have the other rotation of big men they added this offseason, Taylor Stallworth, Danny Shelton. Mm-hmm. Those guys have been real non-factors. And the main thing, I think, in a Steve Spagnuolo defensive line is that there's always going to be a rotation. What percentage of, I don't think he missed time either. What percentage of defensive snaps would you guess Derek Nottie has played for the Chiefs this season? I'll tell you that Chris
35?
Jones.
35% maybe?
No. Stupid.
Sorry.
35.31. So you're so dumb and so far off.
Wow, that was a total shot in the dark,
but,
I promise
you. You got it.
I haven't looked at Derek Nottie's, snap count this year.
If you would have said 36, I would have believed you. But you said 35, I was like, did you get it up on your iPad before
I'm looking at Brandon Williams' PFF grades,
it's incredible. But so Chris Jones has played 84% of the Chiefs' defensive snaps this year. Yeah. But on the interior guys beyond that, 35 for Nottie, just under 35 for Colin Saunders. Mike Dana obviously has been hurt. He's around that level as well. Turk Wharton played 20% of the snaps of the year, obviously still including the ones he's missed. There's always going to be a rotation. There's always going to be a depth need. Taylor Stallworth's played 43 defensive snaps for the Chiefs this year. Any more depth they can add, fresh legs, especially late in the season, that's valuable.
Here's Andy Reid.
All right. As far as injuries go, Juju's sick today, so he won't be there. McKinnon has a hamstring strain. He won't practice today. And then Tony is getting better, but won't practice today. Everybody else will be out there rolling. Look forward to the challenge of playing Cincinnati. We know they're a heck of a football team. And we'll start today getting ready for them. So it'd be good to get on the practice field. With that, time's yours.
Coach, I know you try to put games away from the past, but you guys had a couple of tough ones against them last year. A few months ago, I remember Chris talking about it. These are the kind of games that drove him in the offseason. Does it drive you when you play a team like this again with last year?
Well, it was the last game of the year, so I mean you remember the game, and they did some good things, against us, and so I'm not saying it drives you, but you go back and you evaluate the game, yeah.
What are you seeing differently out of last year? I mean, Jamar Chase maybe plays this weekend, but what are you seeing differently that they've done this year as opposed to when you played them twice last year?
Yeah, well, they're doing a good job. I mean, it's kind of the same stuff they've been doing. They've got most of their guys back. They're playing at a high level. The games that they have lost, they lost just by a few points, with the exception of the Browns. And but it's very, very similar. Good, solid football. both sides of the ball and special teams.
And when you look back at last year, you know, how the second half kind of, I wouldn't say confused you, but took you for a loop, if you will. But how much did you learn from that game that you took into this year, knowing, like, the lessons learned from that game? How much could you take into this year, knowing that the defense they played was something that kind of caught you off guard? You've been able to do very successful in it this year.
Yeah, you know, and they played the first half too, so a bit, you know, but they did a good job with it. I mean, that's what they did. They dropped 8 and played man coverage and had a thief player rolling around in there, and they executed well, better than how we did. We didn't do very well with it, so they got us on, you know. But we've worked on it. I'm sure they've worked on new things, and we'll see how it goes.
And there were guys before and after the Tampa Bay game that made it very clear how much what happened in the previous game motivated them for that contest. Some opportunity, obviously this Sunday. How do you manage when guys are already motivated because of the previous game, but not trying to lose sight of how things may change in this matchup?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, again, it was the last game, so you love to have an opportunity to play them and do better than what we did. I mean, that's for sure. If something motivates you, that's kind of it. But you also know you got to play within yourself and do the things that you know are right and be able to, don't get so high that you can't execute. So that's the trick there.
Andy, Patrick said that he mentioned, or I guess it was just after Sunday's game, he mentioned that his lesson from that game was to close out games. I'm wondering if throughout a season you use a game like that and sort of remind the guys of something like that.
Yeah, well, each one of these things is a learning lesson, right? Win or lose. You come out, you spend all these hours dissecting what you could have done better. And it doesn't matter the game. So you're taking lessons out of each game. This one was, for Pat, that's what it was, what he said. So, but everybody's got that. You know, Chris said, I missed a sack. Bolton said he had 2 interceptions that he dropped. I look in the mirror and I go, there are some calls I would have liked to have had back. I mean, so everybody has that. As long as they're willing to admit it, you have a chance to get better, and that's kind of the thing you try to do.
Coach, your catching the ball has always been, you know, with your running backs, and you even said one time if you're going to be a running back on this team, you got to catch the ball. We hadn't really seen that out of Pacheco. We saw it this week. I mean, he's a young guy, right? Obviously, It's a work in progress, but how's that coming along, and how satisfying was it to see him, you know, make an impact with that?
Yeah, so I mean, Seren, he's got really good hands. He just hasn't had that ton of opportunity, but he will as time goes on here. He'll get more opportunities to catch the ball. He did a nice job on that one for sure.
You and Eric talked about like him having patience. You know, we can see how hard he wants to hit the hole, but maybe he needs to be a little more read what's going on. Is that magnified even more in the passing game with some of the option routes and different ways you guys do things? That wherever he is as a runner, maybe he's even that much further back as a receiver?
Yeah, no, he's done good with that. He actually does well with the routes and his patience on that. The running is getting better. I mean, he's getting better at that. He is extreme. He's got some kind of energy now. I mean, if I had that energy, I'd be 110 pounds. I mean, you know, I want to borrow something. So he's unbelievable that way, how he plays, and he's that way every day. I mean, that's how he's out of practice and everything else. He's got quite a motor.
Running backs. Melvin Gordon signed to the practice squad. When you sign a former two-time Pro Bowler to the practice squad, what are you hoping to get out of him as down the stretch of the season?
Yeah, well, we'll just see. I mean, that's kind of the way we explain it to him. We'll see where this thing goes and where he's at and where the running back situation goes. But he sure has been a heck of a player in the league. I mean, one thing we do know is we know him, and whether he's with the Chargers or, you know, with Denver. So we know what kind of player he is, and so, you know, maybe there's a time here he can help us too. So, well, we'll take all comers if you had some game left in you, we'd bring you over, Herbie. Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah, we'd bring you over. Yeah.
Coach, you briefly mentioned the Chris Jones almost sack, and maybe that's the biggest difference defensively for you guys this year. You've exceeded the sack total. Just how much confidence can that give you going into a game where you're getting home this year?
Yeah, we've done better in that area, finishing sacks. This kid is unique that we're playing. I mean, he's strong in the pocket, and so it presents another challenge. And, our guys will work on that this week and make sure that they have a plan for that.
Couple more guys. Andy, you also added Brandon Williams to the practice squad,
Yes.
or going to. Was there a need for a player like that, or did you guys just see a good player and say, let's bring him in?
Yeah, good. I'd tell you, a good player. He and Joe Cullen have history, so Joe speaks very highly of him, and still thinks he can contribute. So he's been doing it a long time, but we welcome that. He's a great kid and a good football player.
We'll go last, or goes to Reid, and then we'll come to Coach, Patrick obviously welcomed a new addition to the family. I know it's not his first. That's any of us who've had kids know the first one, the big jolt, right? So he's probably a little more prepared for it, but does that take away, preparation time with all that going on?
Yeah, no, he stays pretty focused on job at hand. He's got a great wife that gets all that. She was an athlete too, so. But bronze, I love it, bronze. Patrick Mahomes the third, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. So bronze, I think, is in good hands, and the players all got on Patrick that, if they play long enough, we'll have another quarterback here.
Last two. Little news yesterday, you guys got flexed out of prime time to earlier in the day next week against Denver. Probably doesn't break your heart to get home a little earlier and get some prep work on. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I was okay with it. Yeah, I was okay. I have no decision-making part of that, but or for that, but I'll take it.
Last one, Sam.
Andy, sorry to bring up the Cincy thing again, but when the game is the last game of the year, I guess you don't have the full next week to sort of go over the things you're mentioning. So does it pop up this year, or do you just assume that the lesson was ingrained last year?
Yeah, you're saying with the players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just with you talking to the players, anything of that nature.
Yeah, well, I come in and look at the tape, and then I talk to them, before they leave. Most of them saw it too, somewhere there, either on the plane ride back or soon after that with these iPads. I mean, they all have them. But we talked about it. Yeah, it was open conversation about it, and we knew what we needed to do to better ourselves for that situation. I mean, every game's different, so we're going into this same team, but they'll have something different for us. But if you use it to get better, then that's the objective. A lot of guys weren't here, so they just watch the tape and see what we did.
All right.
Okay. Yep.
All right, there you go. There's Andy Reid, and they get ready for the Bengals. A big one coming up this weekend. A lot of talk about that last game that they played, and how much do you go back and look at that? How much do you take from that? Do the players, are they watching film from last year's game? Are they just simply getting ready for this year's game? An open discussion about that around that game. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
The last 48 hours been for you, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's cool. Obviously, it's awesome to bring in a son, to add to my family, and everything went great, and everything went smooth. And Brittany's a champ, so it's been really cool.
Can you give us some insight on the bronze and kind of theme going here, and
Yeah.
where all that comes from?
Yeah, when me and Brittany, when we had Sterling, we didn't know if it was girl or boy at first, so we started thinking of girl and boys' names, and we wanted to, obviously them to have that connection and them to be brother and sister forever. And so, obviously, I've always wanted to do Patrick LaVon Mahomes III. I've thought about that since I was literally like 5, 6 years old. And I always thought it was going to be Trey as the third because you hear a lot of people doing that. And my brother Jackson, whenever we were trying to find something that was a little unique and different, he said, "What about bronze? It fits perfectly with Sterling," and we went with that, and I think it works out well. And he can have his own thing now, where he's not Patrick, he's Bronze, even though he's Patrick. And then Sterling and Bronze can have that connection moving forward.
Patrick, how much do you think that meant to your dad, just to kind of keep that going?
Hey, man, he was emotional for sure. I mean, my dad, as he's gotten older, has gotten a little bit more emotional, I think, as all of us do. He was here this weekend, so it worked out perfectly that my family got to see him before they left and went back to Tyler. It was cool to see him, and my grandpa was here and my grandma on my mom's side. So I had a lot of family in, so it worked out perfectly that weekend.
The players were, just what was it like to introduce them to the players as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, just have my family and my teammates have always got along perfectly. I mean, you would think when you saw Travis and my dad, they were best friends, not me and him. So that's just the type of organization that we have here, the type of team that we have here. We're all family in this building, and whenever I connect my family to that, it seems like it's just one big family. I think that's what makes us such a great football team.
I don't want to kill the good vibes, you know.
That's all good.
Anybody got any more family ones? Last year, obviously didn't go the way you wanted in that game. Like, how much has this game been circled on the calendar for you, and does it mean more than the other ones?
Yeah, I don't know if it means more. I think you got to keep stuff in perspective. It's a brand new football season. Obviously, anytime someone beats you the year before, you want to beat them, especially in a game like they beat us in to go to the Super Bowl. And we understand it's a great football team that's playing great football right now. So we'll go out there and put our best effort forward and try to play our best football and try to get that win, because it's a big win in the season to try to hold that number 1 seed and win our division.
Patrick, how often does that game enter your mind?
Not really a lot. I mean, once the season ended and I wasn't in the Super Bowl and I had to watch it from the couch at my house in Texas, I kind of just moved on, knowing that you have to keep getting better. You have to keep kind of moving up forward. And if you want to have success that next season, you can't dwell on what happened the last season. You have to learn from it and just get better from it.
You mentioned after the game, one piece of it that you did learn from it was just finishing out games. Are there other tokens you've taken from that game, though?
Yeah, I mean, just whenever stuff's not going the perfect way, the way that we want it to go, just getting back to your fundamentals. I think that's what I kind of look back especially when I watched the tape this week, is I was really good in the first half of my fundamentals, and as the game kind of we weren't having success as an offense, my fundamentals got worse and worse. And so just whenever you get in those situations, just trying to get back to that, get back to your fundamentals and trusting in the game plan that coach is going to put us in the right position to succeed.
How much time have you guys spent working on what the Bengals did to you in the second half last year? Not just necessarily this week, but going back to camp or whatever.
I mean, not a ton. I mean, we work on all different type of coverages, and I mean, it wasn't like they did anything that was that much different from the first half than they did in the second half. They put a little bit more man coverage than they did in the first half. They made some adjustments of trying to be in the right spots. But at the end of the day, we have to execute at a high level, and I trust that our guys are going to win versus man coverage, and if I can execute and throw the ball in the right spot, we'll find ways to have success. So just kind of like I said, getting back to the fundamentals and getting back to just being who I am.
Their receiver Tyler Boyd compared you and Joe Burrow to the old Brady Manning rivalry. Just when you hear something like that and looking at Joe, just what a competitor is he compared to you guys and your little rivalry here?
Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of respect for Joe. I mean, he's a great football player, but he's a competitor, like you said. I mean, those are the guys that win in this league, or guys that compete. And so, I mean, I hate to compare to Brady and Manning because they won so much and put up so many stats, and I feel like that's something that you do at the end of your career when they look back and see all the success that you have. But I know it's just like a lot of these guys. I know I'm going to play this guy for a long time. He's a great competitor, so he's going to be a great football team for a long time, and we're going to have games like this. And so I just try to go out there and win the week, and I know he does the same, and we see what happens at the end of the week, and you move on to the next.
Patrick, on a non-Bengals question, Patrick, I know early in the year you were talking about how much you thought maybe you would use your legs more as the season moves along. With the new receivers, I just wonder how much are you sort of anticipating getting out of the pocket a little bit more and obviously using that to your advantage?
Yeah, I honestly don't think about running until like I have to. I think that's a good thing and a bad thing. But I try to do whatever I can to throw the ball down the field. But with all the coverages that we're getting, and they're trying to take away guys and man coverages and putting people out there to stop all the receivers that we have, it's kind of opened up those lanes. Yeah, I just try to use them whenever it's there and not try to overdo it. I know they had a good plan last year where they were kind of spying me, the Bengals did, so I'll have to make sure I account for that as well. But it's just trusting your guys up front to protect, and then us making plays downfield, and I'll give those guys chances too.
Even with your fundamentals, is it still more fun to throw out of the pocket than the traditional 3-step, 5-step, and get it out of your hands?
I don't know. As I've gotten older, I've started to like throwing from the pocket more. So I don't know if it's just because I've gotten a little bit older and understand a little bit more. But when I was younger, I'd like to scramble around and make a ton of different throws, and I can still do it. But if I can throw from the pocket these days, I'm just gonna throw it from there.
Patrick, you mentioned not dwelling on things earlier. Sky Moore had a difficulty getting the drop on the punt, and you know, you could hear the crowd kind of got after him a little bit. You guys on offense still went right to him. Is that something that you saw that and said, I'm going to get him into the game? He obviously had a very good game then catching the ball. Is that something you said? Does Andy say that to you? Is it Eric, somebody talking in your headset saying, let's get him involved and get the ball, or did it just work out that way?
I think it just worked out that way, but I think EB and Coach Reid do a good job of, whenever stuff like that happens, scheming up stuff or calling those plays that might have him as one of the primary options. I just go through my reads and throw it to the guys that are open. I mean, that's the thing in this team is we're not dwelling on that. We know the guys here are competing. They're doing whatever they can to put everything on the line. And if something happens bad, we know the next time you get a chance, you're gonna make a play happen. And that's what great teams do, and that's what great players do.
You mentioned, Sam, maybe losing some fundamentals at the end of the second half last year in that game. Is that something you feel while it's happening, or something you see on tape? Do you have any safeguards, someone watching to kind of give you a little cue to say, look out for this if that's happening during a game?
I think it's something that I've gotten better at recognizing as my career has gone on. I think when I get in some, I don't want to say slumps, but in some spots in games where my fundamentals go bad, I've tried to be better at fixing them quicker, because those are things that I've taught myself now of how to recognize and how to get back to what do I think of to get back into the right fundamentals. And having guys like Chad Henne, Nagy, and all these guys that kind of been around me for a while now, they can kind of give me stuff, and they can, I don't want to say critique me, but they can tell me when I'm not doing something the right way, so that I can get back to what we practice on all week. And that's something that I try to recognize as quickly as possible.
Like a little bit of a mound visit for
that's exactly right. I mean, just having someone that can come out that you trust, that knows that they want you to play the best football possible, and they can just give you those little tidbits that can get you back into the rhythm of the offense.
We'll go Harold, Sam, then Alex. Go ahead, Harold.
Patrick, this year with the Bengals, is there anything differently, or is it more of the same you see with the Bengals defense and what you're about to face this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good defense. It's a really good entire unit of defense. They're well coached. I have good players at every level, and they've played together now for a long time, so they do a great job of passing off stuff and zone coverages and man coverages, knowing where the other guy is to help. And so, I mean, they're a well-coached unit. We know it's a great challenge for us, and we're just going to go out there and try to execute at a high level. And it'll probably be a lot of tight window throws, and guys are going to have to make plays, and that's what happens when you play a great football team. It's just going to be a tightly contested game.
Patrick, I'm sure when you play any team, if you played them recently, you watch a lot of the film of the last matchup. What is that experience like, and does it differ based on how you played in that particular game?
I mean, you kind of learn from it in good and bad ways. I mean, you learn from the stuff that you did good, and you want to execute and do that stuff again. And then you see the stuff that you miss, and you obviously you're mad because you missed it, but you learn from that, so you can hit it the next time. So us play these teams a lot now with a lot of these young quarterbacks from the league. You start playing the same teams, and so you learn from it. You make adjustments, they make adjustments, and then you go out there and make adjustments on the field. So it's a great challenge for both teams, and I'm excited for it.
Going back to off-season, preseason, if you can recall when you do have so many new faces in the receivers room, what are the most important things for you to do to help them get acclimated, to help them feel welcome here?
I think it's just you just talk to each other. You learn that relationship with the guys off the field, and then on the field you talk to them about how you like things ran. They talked about how they've ran them before. You learn from each other, then you go out there and execute at a high level. And I think that's what we've done is as the season's gone on, you see we're getting more and more chemistry because we've talked through the stuff, we talked to the mistakes, we talked to the positives, and we've learned how to keep evolving as an offense.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's Patrick Mahomes, the father of two now with bronze. And how about that? Jackson Mahomes coming up with the name Bronze. So See?
Lots of people went like, oh, it'll probably be Trey. He was thinking Trey. Jackson comes in. Bang.
What about bronze?
Metal theme.
What about bronze? And they're like, I don't know. What about, oh, wait, I see what you're doing here. And Brisco, how long would it have taken you if Jackson would have said, hey, Josh, what about bronze?
I'm like, that sounds cool. That's a pretty good medal.
Sure, what
but
about
enough
it?
about where the
Yeah.
Chiefs finished last season, huh?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Look at that.
Wow, okay. All right, well, here's Chris Jones.
Patrick, about going back and watching the film of last year's game, I'm just wondering what you see when you go back and watch it, and just also kind of the emotions of going back and watching that game.
I haven't went back and watched it yet. I done watched a few games of theirs this year. They got a completely different offensive line, so I haven't went and visited last year yet.
So it's just specifically because of the change in personnel that you focus on?
Yeah, because of the change of offensive linemen. Everyone is new. I've been trying to get a beat on how they set, how that group is blocking together, so I haven't had time to go back to last year.
I remember talking to you in the offseason with one of these things, and you had mentioned that, the game against the Bengals in the playoffs, and felt you almost had a couple of sacks that didn't come through that way. Is it still something that is on your mind, or is that just kind of off-season stuff?
I mean, it was a driving force for this offseason. You always can look back and push yourself to do something better, and it was definitely a driving force of a lot of plays I left on the field that I think could have sealed the game and put us in a better position to win. But right now, our focus is on, this year, winning this game, putting ourselves in a position to where we can go out and compete.
Go ahead, sir. Statistically, if I could talk, sorry. Statistically speaking, you're at your second best sack total already, and as a team, you guys are already eclipsed last year's sack total. I mean, I know pressures, you hear Coach Spags talking about pressures and everything, but to be doing that, you guys obviously focused on something, you're accomplishing it right now. What was the driving force? Why? Because there's not a lot of massive personnel change, right? Why you personally and the unit doing so well?
One person, man. Well, actually, two people. Terry Braden and Joe Cullen. We got some of the best coaches in the building, and we were just very fortunate. We got a very good group, very young group, a lot of hungry guys in our room, starting with the leadership of Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap, then the younger guys like Colin Sanders stepping up this year, Derek Nottie, who's been in this system for four to 5 years, and Mike Dana, Tershawn Warden, a lot of guys who's hungry to show that, they belong in this league.
Chris, not to say that you're ineffective at the beginning of games, but there's points in games where it seems like you really start cooking and you're very hard to defend. I guess just, do you know what I'm talking about, and what takes you to get there, and how do you challenge yourself to get to that point as fast as possible?
It's more so being decisive. I understand that every play of the game, it's not meant for me to make. Sometimes it's meant for me to take on a double team in order for the blitz to get there. And schematically, me and Spags talk about it along the week, how he plans on calling the game and how he plans on using me. And when I get my opportunity to get a one-on-one, or I see something I've seen on film where I can take advantage of it, that's what I try to capitalize on.
Chris, is there anything about Joe Burrow that makes him difficult to bring down?
Oh, he's a good quarterback, man. I don't know what you guys want me to give you all world. I'm not going to give y'all all of that. He's a good quarterback, man. He's a good quarterback.
Couple more. Chris, Andy mentioned a couple weeks ago that the difference in you early in your career and now is just how much you've concentrated in the off-season on your body and the shape you're in and stuff. I'm wondering what motivates you to do that, and how you've seen the difference play out on the field.
A six-pack. I've been trying to get this six-pack for 3 years, okay? Right now I'm getting older, so the older you get is harder to get. No, honestly, I think it's a huge part of nutrition. We got a heck of a strength staff and nutritionist staff here. Barry Rubes, me and him, we gained a huge personal relationship this offseason, and my goal was to make sure I come back in the best shape I've been in a while. And we focus on that throughout the year. It's a building process. It's a marathon, but we just continue building.
We see you at Joe's. Are the Joe's fries part of the nutrition? Is that part of it?
Yeah,
It's not working.
you got to be very decisive, man. Mondays is cheat days for me, so I goes with a half a pound of burnt ends and French fries. They're so consistent, man. That's the thing, consistency with Joe's. Their fries always taste the same. They're always fresh and hot, and the burnt ends, they're like candy. So that's my only time I get to eat beef. So, I take advantage of it.
You mentioned Carlos' name. This is homecoming for him. Have you talked to him this week about what this one means to him personally?
Surprisingly, I actually mentioned that today. Me and him talking, I asked him, Carlos, this is your homecoming. He was like, yeah, this is my first time going back since leaving. And I was telling him how much they hate him over there. Because they feel like he left them when they was doing bad and he jumped ship. But respectfully, he done a lot for that organization. He's probably one of the best DNs to play in that organization. We're very fortunate to have him in this room, the type of player, the caliber player he is. And we're glad he's on our side this time. So.
Chris, there's a lot of guys who've got kids in there, and Patrick just introduces one, and I remember you saying you like dealing with kids but not babies, but how many times have you been approached to be like Uncle Chris, if you will?
Oh, man. It's so crazy because when my kids hear somebody call me Uncle Chris, they'll start calling me Uncle Chris. So it's crazy. But, yeah, I done been approached a couple times to be Uncle Chris and take the picture with the kid on the shoulder. It's all out of love, though.
Chris, we saw a lot. Last year was kind of a thing made about you playing defensive end, and you guys kind of got away from that. This year, no one's really talked about it, but you've had some success out there and done that a little bit more. Is it just a matter of finding the right time to do it, or are you more comfortable at it? Why has it seemingly worked a little better this year than last year?
I think it's more situational. When it's clearly passing downs, I don't think you want to leave me in the read option against Lamar. I don't think that's the best outfit to have, but more so situational downs where I can just rush the passer and be free out there on the end. So,
Chris, specific to one of your newest teammates, running back Melvin Gordon, you've had an opportunity to play against him over the years. What makes him stand out, and what special skills stand out to you about him?
He's a hard runner. I had the pleasure of playing him my first 3 to 4 years. And then I think there was I don't want to get it wrong, San Diego Chargers then before they moved to L.A. So, yeah, him and Phillip Rivers was together a long time. And he's well respected and high regards in this organization. So we're very fortunate to have him. I think he'll be a great asset to our running back room, and it'll be fun to watch him play.
Last one, Pete. How proud have you been of Colin Saunders and his breakout of sorts, and what have you seen behind the scenes that sort of led to that for him?
We talked about it along the lines of training camp. We used to have our lone talks walking up and down the hill, and that was the focal point of his maturity. He's grown a lot in a lot of areas, and it's starting to show in the film. You turn his film on now. I mean, he's a complete different player than what he used to be, and there goes more so with opportunities also. He's having more opportunities to play, to broadcast his talent. He was hurt the past few years. Being healthy and being accessible for this team in order to be out there to show your talent, it's a huge thing. So to have him here playing and healthy, it's been great for our D-line room, his contribution.
Thanks.
All right, there's Chris Jones along with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Excuse me, Uncle Chris, along with Daddy Pat and head coach Andy.
I've been calling him that for years.
So have the Broncos. We'll take a timeout. Excuse me, AFC West. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Chris Jones said something there that I'm going to read way too much into. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to say it before I even do it. I'm going to read way too much into and tell you what that is next.
Patrick Mahomes press conference brought to you by Xfinity Sports Zone. Xfinity Sports Zone, the ultimate sports hub experience, only from Xfinity. By Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park, the only Volvo dealership in Kansas City, where luxury and safety meet. Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park at 78th and Metcalf, or PremierVolvoCarsOverlandPark.com. And by Westlake Ace Hardware. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware today, online at westlakehardware.com. Westlake Ace Hardware. Small projects, big know-how. Ask away.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You know, I went to BYU, so every down's a throwing down. I mean, that's how that goes.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, and Beards. Beards, get the Nobody Cares ready.
Oh,
I'm
so
doing this one on my own. No advice from anybody.
Okay.
I'm just reading tea leaves here.
Okay.
I'm going heavy on Mexico to win.
Nobody cares.
Well,
They're minus 170 against Saudi Arabia. The reason I'm doing that, here's my thought process.
Better food.
That's right. Mexico has to win to advance. Poland and Argentina are playing each other.
Mm-hmm.
If it is a tie and Mexico wins, they would have the same amount of points as Argentina, but Argentina's goal differential is +3 right now, which means that Mexico not only needs to win, but needs to put it on Saudi Arabia. If Argentina wins and Poland then has 4 points and would be tied with Mexico, Poland's goal differential is +2. But if it's a tie, so Mexico's got a chance to advance, but they know they have to play on the front foot the entire game to really attack to score goals, and I think that's going to. Saudi Arabia can use Saudi Arabia can advance with a tie. They have to win as well, but I think Mexico's better. So you've got two teams that feel like they have to win. Mexico's the better team that feels like they have to win. I'm going heavy on Mexico to win. That's my thought process. Probably dumb. Means that Mexico's going to lose by 5 goals.
Nobody cares.
No, I can't.
Thank you,
I
Beers.
can't leave well enough alone. So what I've got right now here is that you take the Mexico and the Mexico over 1.5 goals parlay.
That's a good one. I
that
probably
gets you
should have done
very
that.
close to even money, minus 110.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
You feel good about Hirving Lozano
Yeah,
scoring? He's plus
absolutely.
175. Henry Martin plus 140.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Luis Chavez at plus 275 anytime goal scorer. I mean, those numbers.
Yeah, you should go that route.
If Jorge Sanchez, he's plus 850.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Ali Al Hassan plus 1,000. I mean, there's just value all over the place in this World Cup, man.
Is he related to Amin Elazon?
I don't know.
Okay, very good. So, Chris Jones.
Saudi Arabia has a guy named Sultan, like Sultan.
There you go. Of SWAT?
Sultan of goals, hopefully, here, because he's plus 1,400, and I'm putting that house on it.
As you should. That would be my advice. Bet as much money as you can on a guy that's plus
On
1,400
the longest
score.
shot you can actually bet on for an anytime goal score.
All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. So here's where I'm going to read way too much into a Chris Jones comment.
Can't wait.
Reading way too much into this. Chris Jones was simply asked about Joe Burrow and how tough it is or why it's tough to sack him, to bring him down. Because Jones had a couple chances to sack him in the AFC Championship game. Melvin Ingram had a chance. You know, they had shots to go ahead and end drives for the Bengals. In fact, 11 points that they scored in the second half, drives would have ended with just simply bringing the quarterback down that they had in the grasp. Didn't work. He says, he's a good quarterback, man. You know, he's a good quarterback. You're not going to get me to say anything as in like bulletin board material. Like you're not going to. I'm reading way too much into this because all he was asked was, why is it tough to bring Joe Burrow down? Why would then Chris Jones think you're not going to get me to say something negative about Joe Burrow? Here's my reading way too much into that. I don't think the Chiefs defense think all that much of Joe Burrow. I think the Chiefs defense left that game saying we lost to that guy and he's getting all this credit. BS. No, he didn't beat us. We beat ourselves. We did this. We did that. Why is it tough to bring him down? Well, he's a good quarterback. And, you know, look, you're not going to get me to say anything bad, bulletin board material. Nobody was asking you a gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is Chris Jones subconsciously like, don't worry, I'm not going to say what I really think about me not being able to sack Joe Burrow and what he is as a quarterback.
After earlier being like, hey, you probably don't want me playing the read option on the edge against Lamar Jackson. You know, like he gave a compliment to a different quarterback in the same division without even thinking about it.
But as a runner, though.
Right.
As
True.
a
Good
runner
point.
in Lamar
Fair.
Jackson, and why he doesn't play defensive end every snap.
Right.
Why he plays situationally, and he's been better at that this year as opposed to, you're the defensive end, and oh, by the way, go have fun trying to read the mesh point with Lamar Jackson. That's fun. Go deal with Lamar Jackson in space, Chris. Not just tossing the guard or the center or the double team to the side and chasing a QB down right in front of you. Not that. Go be in space. Makes sense. I'm obviously reading too much into that. Obviously reading way too much into that. But anything there that, I heard it immediately. Like, well, why would he need to say some bulletin board material? You just ask him, why is Joe Burrow tough to bring down? Because that guy had an 86 quarterback rating against the Chiefs where they had sack after sack and a dropped interception. 3 sacks and a dropped interception in the second half alone that all 3 ended up being either an incomplete pass or first downs. The 3 non-sacks were first downs. A 23-yarder, a 13-yarder, and an 8-yarder. 2 of those being runs. The dropped interception by Nick Bolton, I believe, dropped interception by Nick Bolton was the play before Chris Jones did not sack Joe Burrow on what was that 3rd and 7. So all 3 of those plays, 3 sacks and an interception resulted in points for the Bengals later on in that drive. I don't think Chris Jones looks across the field and says, that guy scares me. Even though he should, because Burrow's really good and he's playing phenomenal football. That's just me, reading way too much into it.
I think there's at least a little smoke around that. I think that's kind of interesting, specifically in that context of, remember how the Bengals ultimately did vanquish the Chiefs. It wasn't because they played their perfect game and that Joe Burrow demanded your respect because of how excellently they executed everything. The Chiefs had a bunch of self-inflicted mistakes. Even if that doesn't really reflect on how they actually view Joe Burrow, it's definitely, as far as I can tell, how they view that game.
Yeah, right.
Because it's not about the plays they made. It's about what we didn't do ourselves. Now, that's partially going to be found anytime that they're looking back at a game because you want to figure out what you could have controlled. You want to acknowledge your own shortcomings so you're better the next time that opportunity comes around. But I think there's something at least a little bit interesting within all of that.
And I think it's that specific game, by the way.
Yeah.
Because
That's why that one's in there still.
The first game, Joe Burrow was brilliant. The first game, Joe Burrow was phenomenal. I mean, it wasn't a, boy, how did you lose to that? That was not the case in the first game. He had, 400 yards and no interceptions and completed 80% of his passes in that game. He was just throwing dimes all over the place. And the Chiefs were even sacking him in that game. Because I remember talking about that going into the Bengals game of, look how often, the championship game, look how often the Titans got there and sacked Burrow. The Chiefs got there 4 or 5 times the previous, game a few weeks before that in Cincinnati. You get there, you frustrate them, and you play a little bit better defense on this Bengals team in the second half. And offensively, you don't do what you did in the second half, and it's going to be fine. You're going to take care of business. You're going to cover the spread, and you're going to be playing in the Super Bowl against either the Rams or the 49ers. They didn't sack Joe Burrow. And as we know, those were huge plays to not sack Joe Burrow when they got there.
Yep.
And the offense did in the second half what they did the first go-around in the second half, and they just played terrible, a no good, very bad half of football for Patrick Mahomes. It was the worst half of football I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes play. He was indecisive. He looked like he lacked confidence. Looked like he was short-arming some. Didn't know, should I run or should I run around? I've got time to throw. Here's an open receiver, and now I just miss him. He missed a couple guys in the second half that resulted in punts that were just misses. Tyreek Hill threw it high, incomplete. Byron Pringle running across the right hash towards the sideline, high and outside on 3rd down, punt. And all day to throw. He wasn't pressured. He was sitting in the pocket. Boom, there's Pringle. Let me throw it, and just misses him. Those are things that up until that half of football, Mahomes was putting it between the 1 and the 3 to Byron Pringle, between the 1 and the 0 to Tyreek Hill. And then in the second half, he wasn't. So whatever was going on, I don't know. But I don't think the Chiefs left that game saying, yeah, that Joe Burrow, tip your cap. Sometimes you just go up against an amazing player. Number 9's out there, and when number 9's out there on the field and you lose, there's nothing to be ashamed of. I don't think they left that game thinking that.
And I think this kind of goes back to something I lightly teased earlier when we were talking about how you view this game versus I wonder how fans are viewing this game. Sam McDowell just tweeted this a couple minutes ago from the locker room. He said, Justin Reid told me when he arrived in Kansas City, quote, the guys were talking about 3 games, the Bills, Tennessee, and most of all, Cincinnati. McDowell clarifies 3 games on this year's schedule when Justin Reid got to town. I think this game is stuck in the craw of the Chiefs, similarly to how it's stuck in the craw of most Chiefs fans, for a lot of the same things we're dissecting right now, which is that was a game that we should have won. And I think this is what really rankles up the fan base in a major way. It's really frustrating to watch another team get credit for something that you feel like your team should have gotten credit for, which I think has, to be fair, I think has led to a little bit of sour grapes. I sometimes join in on it because making fun of the Bengals is kind of fun. I don't really know why. But there's a little bit of that sort of like seeking the revenge, but almost because of the vibes that followed it, more so than for the game itself. People don't like the Bengals around here, not because... and not in the same way as they don't like the Bills. Because you don't like the Bills because you know Josh Allen's going to do some stuff you can't do anything about. He is just going to be inevitable a couple of times, and you hope you get him, and you hope your guy is more inevitable. But the Bengals game felt like, not calling it a layup is not fair, but it felt like you had an open 3 to win the game, and it just bounced off the back of the rim. And you go, oh, we had a great look. We ran the right play. It was right there. We played a better game than that. And there's no one to blame but yourself if you're the Chiefs, which is why you hear Mahomes and Jones especially do so much of that as they did throughout the offseason. There's nobody to blame, but boy, it's frustrating when you can't blame somebody and you watch somebody else go to the Super Bowl. I think that's really stuck with a lot of fans.
I think the frustration is that you look at it and you say, if the Bills would have won that divisional round game, you said, amazing game. Bills are good.
Yep.
Bengals win that one, and you're right. There was some sour grapes to it, fully admit. You come away from that going, they're experiencing the glory that the Chiefs should be experiencing because the Chiefs are the better team and would have earned it. But the Bengals did it. They won the game. You get one shot any given Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday in the NFL, and that's what happens. And you had a 21-3 lead, and you somehow got outscored 24-3 the rest of the way after having a 21-3 lead and doing whatever you wanted to do offensively. And then you couldn't do anything offensively after that. But yeah, there's some sour grapes about it and looking at it. Now, me, probably a little bit more because my Twitter is an interesting cross from Kansas City, Chiefs fans, Royals fans.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then UK Bengals fans that all of a sudden out of nowhere last year were diehards and were like, oh, hey, I painted my face every Sunday since I was 5 years old. Really? You were talking about last year that you aren't watching this team anymore, but whatever. Every fan base goes through that.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm probably, a little too close to it when that is the case, which is why I really enjoyed the who was the 15 seed that knocked off UK last year in the NCAA tournament.
I was so ready to jump in and help you, and
went
then
to
you
the
went
Sweet
to a college
16 or the
basketball.
Elite Eight. I should know that one.
So should I. I mean, we all definitely.
I mean, it's a freaking 15 seed, which is why I enjoyed
the Peacocks.
I enjoyed that so
St.
much.
Peter's. Got it. I got it before I looked it up. I remembered Peacocks before I remembered St. Peter's.
I was the only thing jumping into my mind was St. John's, and I'm like, obviously it wasn't St. John's, but St. Peter's. I knew it was a Saint.
There was a Saint, and there was a Big Bird.
The crossover between UK and Cincy fans.
Yeah.
I took a little bit more pleasure in that tournament loss because I knew what it meant to UK fans that took so much pleasure with the Bengals win. Here's where I'm too close to the situation and why this week sort of will bother me and why they're sour grapes is the Bengals have the bragging rights because they beat the Chiefs.
Yep.
Chiefs fans can't say really anything about you're not on the level of the Chiefs but you won twice and went to the Super and you're the reigning AFC champions and you're only a game or two behind the Chiefs right now, and you've got some close losses, but whatever. But a feeling of, look, franchise-wise right now, the Bengals are still behind the Chiefs. But yet recent results make it very annoying until Sunday where Dadgum, they better win. And here's where I say I'm a little too close. So Bobby Strope, the Patrick Mahomes trainer, tweets out after the Rams game, late that night, tweets out, it's Bengals week. People that I then follow that are also Bengals fans jump on this. By the way, Bobby Strope has since deleted that. Not sure why, but he has deleted that tweet. Bengals fans jumped on it and were making fun of it and making fun of Chiefs fans saying, you guys are calling this Bengals week like we're your rival. We don't even play in the same division. That's how you guys view us? And this one's really bothered me, this reaction or response by one particular person, and it just annoys the crap out of me. And his response is, that's because we're all they've got. That particular fan thinks Chiefs fans, the only thing we have are the Bengals to talk about. Isn't that incredibly, even if that's one person thinking that, it just, like, no, you're behind, but it's not true. Because
Correct.
They're winning the division,
Of course
and
it's not
they
true.
also have a Super Bowl championship, which they don't have. But just that is a thought process by one particular person because Patrick Mahomes' trainer says it's Bengals week, and they go, yeah, of course it is, because we're the only thing that team has anyway.
We love doing that to the Broncos.
Right.
But with the Broncos, the Chiefs have won like a dozen of those games in a row.
Yes.
This is why I think maybe the most... The highest ratio of effort to effectiveness in all of trash talk is a one-word retort. There's one word in all of trash talk that I think is the most devastating for only being 2 syllables. Scoreboard.
Yeah.
Because when you get hit with scoreboard, it's very hard to come back from that, despite the fact that Chiefs fans could absolutely, from A to Z, build a perfectly logical 26-part argument about why the Kansas City Chiefs are a better football team than the Cincinnati Bengals are, and why they have been for the last 5 years, and really for the last 20 years. But, since Andy Reid got to town at least, the Chiefs have that argument even through last year. You can say that was an upset because upsets are a thing that exists.
13 to now, you could say you could argue.
The
Chiefs.
Bengals didn't have a lot before. They had Carson Palmer. So,
They were going to the playoffs.
They had it for that stretch.
Marvin Lewis, and they were at least in the playoffs every year. They weren't winning a game, but we know about that around here too.
Right, exactly. We had some shared DNA with the Bengals, and now again, the Bengals are a good team that is going to cause some problems.
Right.
But it's really frustrating to see everything we saw throughout that stretch of last season. And then the Bengals have an entire offseason of being able to say, scoreboard. We were in the Super Bowl and you weren't.
Yeah.
And all you can say as a Chiefs fan is, yeah, but... And that is the beginning of
we were better.
That's the beginning of a losing argument.
Yeah, but we beat you twice.
If but is the beginning of your retort to scoreboard, you've already lost.
Right.
Which is why I do think that this game... Exactly. It's why I think this game does have some extra juice for the Chiefs, which we might make fun of the Broncos or... Good God, what did we do to the Raiders for taking a victory lap? You had to wait till the next time, though. You could say scoreboard and mean it, and then it was washed away. It felt like little brother stuff. The Chiefs care about this game more than the Bengals right now. I think that might be true for the first time in a non-playoff game since Patrick Mahomes got here, maybe. The Chiefs have the target on their back. In this game, there really is an extra, intangible element for the Chiefs because they don't want to get scoreboarded again. That sucks to feel.
This feels like the Bills heading to Kansas City this year.
Yes.
After last year where the Bills say, all we had to do was 13 seconds, and we're playing in the AFC Championship game at home against the Bengals. We would have beat that team. We're Super Bowl champions this year. And now we're the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But that's the one we want. That's the one we're looking at. That means a little bit more than just one win. Chiefs are betting favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. Right now they are. And that's the one we want to win. That's the one. Even though, hey, if you're a Chiefs player, we're the betting favorites. We still think we're better than that team. Bills, last year, walk off the field saying, we don't think the better team won.
Mm-hmm.
We lost a coin flip. All we had to do was not let them kick a field goal with 13 seconds. And we walk out of Arrowhead with a win. We would have punked them in the regular season and beat them in the divisional round game. On their turf twice, we're better. But scoreboard. Okay. We'll show you this year because we're the betting favorites. We're going to go in there and we're going to win. And they did. Again. Do they do it again in the playoffs? We'll find out. They have regular season scoreboard. Chiefs have postseason scoreboard against the Bills. Bengals have both. This has the feel of the Bills heading into Kansas City, the extra juice for them. Chiefs heading into Cincinnati, the extra juice for the Chiefs. And you're right. For the first time in a while, that this is one they've had on the calendar that they've been talking about that they really want. Bills, Bengals, and what was the other one?
Titans.
Bills, Titans, and the Bengals. All teams they lost to in the regular season last year. One team they lost in the regular season and the postseason last year. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Alexa, tell the government that I did pay my taxes this year. Thank you.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We'll talk with Mick Shaffer coming up at 1 o'clock. We got shot clock reviews as well. One of the things that we did not talk about. Oh, sorry, we need to play this.
The whole bit is it's funny if it interrupts you anyway.
Sorry.
So that really worked out. No,
Can
you
we
should
try
never
to get-
apologize.
can we
yeah,
try it again?
Yeah, that was actually an accident. I don't have any breaking news.
So one of the things that we did not talk about.
Breaking news, Jason. From the college football world, a new head coach for UAB. Yes, the University of Alabama, Birmingham. But why do we care about the hire at the University of Alabama, Birmingham?
Is it Eli Drinkwitz?
Because they have hired their new head coach, Trent Dilfer. He's stepping down as a head coach at a high school he's coaching at. This will be his first college coaching experience. But not quite the Jeff Saturday move to Indianapolis. But Trent Dilfer from high school to UAB to be the new head coach there of the Blazers.
Well, I would say that the one thing Dilfer would have going in his favor is how connected he's been to high school quarterbacks for a long time with the Dilfer and the Elite 11 camps that he does. So he does have relationships with some high school quarterbacks.
Yep.
That if you can land one to believe in Dilfer, and I've been around him with Elite 11 stuff, and now I want to go and be coached by him at UAB. And
he's done some quarterback coaching.
Right.
Just that, not the whole team. But
do I have a better chance of going, if I'm not going to play for a team that can win a national title, so if I'm not going to Clemson or Alabama or something like that, do I have a chance of making the NFL better chance by playing for Trent Dilfer at UAB than another? That would be the one thing early on. But as he gets further and further away from being that guy that worked with high school quarterbacks, does he still have that connection? And if not, and it's not working at UAB, how long until they fire him and say, there's a good chance?
4 years as a head coach in high school at Lipscomb Academy. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. This isn't a Dunkapalooza quite as much as that's kind of interesting.
Well, it's UAB, one of a lot of schools, not one of 32 in the
That's
NFL.
right.
WHB Kansas City. And now, on Sports Radio 810 Sports Center.
This Sports Center is brought to you by Greenlight Dispensary. Check out their monthly Underground event this Friday and Saturday from 12 to 8 p.m. The Underground at Greenlight Independence is Missouri's first and largest medical marijuana farmers market. Visit Greenlight Dispensary's Independence location at 3721A South Noland Road, Independence, Missouri, 64055. Andy Reid says Juju Smith-Schuster with an illness, Jerick McKinnon with a hamstring strain, and Kadarius Toney with a hamstring won't practice for the Chiefs today. No mention of guard Joe Thuney or safety Juan Thornhill, who both missed last week's game against the Rams. After already adding Melvin Gordon to the practice squad, the Chiefs made another addition late yesterday. Longtime former Ravens defensive tackle Brandon Williams has signed with the Chiefs practice squad, quote, with the idea of going to the active roster, unquote, per Adam Schefter. We'll talk about that and much more with Mick Shaffer of KSHB 41 next in The Zone. This is SportsCenter.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I have lots of amoebas and bacteria swimming up in me.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Joining us for the final hour, KSHB 41 Chief Meteorologist. It is Mick Shaffer here with us in the zone.
We're having a grammar discussion in the break here.
As of Friday? Chief Meteorologist tomorrow or Friday? When do you take over? Because Gary's taking over for you.
That's right. Thursday's his last day. It's going to be me on Friday.
Okay. Thursday's his last day as meteorologist. Last night was his first day as the sports director.
He did he did what, like a third of the sportscast. He
Sounds
didn't want anything
great.
in the prompter. He just wanted to ad-lib about Chris Jones and how he's going to be the difference on Sunday. He's finally going to sack Joe Burrow this time, and that's what's going to give the Chiefs the win.
I did like how he was correct in the Chiefs being flexed because the Broncos suck. He did get that. He did nail that one where the Chiefs have been flexed out. It showed you just how bad the Broncos are. That is correct. The Chiefs are flexed out because, how about that? They flexed out of Sunday Night Football, Patrick Mahomes versus Russell Wilson, Chiefs and Broncos.
It's so bad over there.
How bad is it?
That the Broncos can even spoil Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's like a great actor, a bad actor spoiling a good movie. Tobey Maguire spoiling Spider-Man.
Whoa!
Worst casting decision ever.
I really thought you were going to go with another Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, yes, we could go there.
We should go there so you can have a good opinion. Instead of that bad one you just said, by accident, I assume?
Tobey Maguire.
Accidental?
How many Spider-Men have there been in cinema history?
Yeah. Three in modern.
Three modern. He is in
live
fifth place
action.
among those three. He's in fifth place.
Are multiple movies Spider-Men or are multiple movies Spider-Mans?
This sounds like a couple of guys who have not watched the newest Spider-Man movie, where a lot of these questions are answered by context, essentially.
Oh, really?
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah.
Well,
you didn't enjoy his performance in the most recent time that he was on the screen?
You
No
know what?
spoiler?
He
It's been out
actually
for a year.
smiled in that one, and he was a little more. Is more of a veteran actor
Okay,
now.
you know what?
And
are you
he's a
tainted by
bit-
Spider-Man 3? Because that one I would understand.
When he's a bit player, then fine. He's just fine in
all
this
right.
type of movie. But when he's the lead, and I mean, don't get me started on Kirsten Dunst. How long do we have?
Actually,
oh my God.
You know what? Shot clock reviews. I'll be looking forward to the Kirsten Dunst, Tobey Maguire matchup.
I guess I'm going to have to do my 24 seconds also on Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire, ideally right after Mick, so I can just say the opposite of whatever Mick wants to say about
worst
those two.
Peter Parker MJ combo out there.
Well,
I'm not going to weigh in on that in my 24 seconds. I will not do that.
Huh.
I'll talk about something. I'll talk about anything but that.
It's almost like, and I tweeted this last night, the Broncos spoiling Patrick Mahomes is like putting ketchup on steak. It's like the one thing that can ruin steak.
That's better.
Yeah,
Which
you
is
know
like a
what? I like that
callback
one.
to what
Patrick
Patrick
Mahomes.
likes.
It's
Yeah.
good.
Ketchup.
Russell
Steak.
Wilson is the ketchup to Patrick Mahomes' steak. Which is
He's also the Tobey Maguire to Patrick Mahomes Spider-Man.
No, he's the ketchup to Patrick Mahomes' steak because, one, most of us look at that and go, ew, but Patrick Mahomes looks at that and says, I think I will consume that fully in mere moments, which is what he's done against the Broncos
So does
for
that
his
make
career.
Nathaniel Hackett Kirsten Dunst?
I think so.
No. I don't even know what that means, but no.
The Broncos are Danny DeVito to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
What are you doing here,
Oh,
Mick?
my goodness.
He's the worst cast member. You have to agree with that. He was forced upon that show.
I
and
mean,
he
the
doesn't
show
make it better at all.
isn't even made without him.
Really? Was he a producer on it?
I wish someone would offer me an egg in this trying time.
Weren't they trying to get it made and nobody would do it? And then Danny DeVito caught on to it and was like, "No, let's get this thing
But
done."
I have to be in it. Yeah,
probably yes. I thought that was how the Danny DeVito.
Hey, you know
I could be
what?
wrong about that, but I've always been under the impression that It's Always Sunny was trying to get made in different places, and it was Danny DeVito that ultimately got
Of
it
the 5
past the
actors in
finish
that
line.
show, he's the 20th best.
I figured it out.
It is the opposite of
20th
Charlie.
fun.
It is
20th
the opposite of Charlie.
I have
best
the
cast.
analogy is that Russell Wilson is the Mick Shaffer of Sunday Night Football because this has been your worst segment ever.
No.
No, it has.
There's got to be a
There's
couple
so many bad
people
segments.
out. Yeah, it's
Did
true.
you listen Friday? We mailed that whole show in.
Hey, did you listen the 2 months you were off?
No, I didn't. I mean, why would I? That's true.
I mean, if KU had lost to Wisconsin, I didn't even have a show Friday. They win, I got a show Friday.
You did 4 hours of thanks for trying, Zach Clements.
That thing was as mailed in as a Friday has ever been mailed in. Mick and I spent a half hour talking about Mill Valley and Lee Summit North and just hanging out, just shooting the breeze. As they do deserve that. They were playing for the state championship. But it's not typically something we would talk about on a Friday leading into Chiefs on Sunday and KU, K-State, Mizzou, Arkansas. There were a lot of things to really get into the nuts and bolts and break things down. And we kind of just sat here and hung out and then watched the England-U.S. match the first half in the 1 o'clock hour.
That sounds great.
So that's what Mick and I did on Friday.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, this is already better
Thanks,
than that.
Bobby Pettiford.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is not a problem from Friday's show. The problem today's show is that Mick showed up and started just saying the biggest
Dropping
nonsense he
truth
could
bombs,
think of.
boys.
You know what?
Unbelievable.
It's because you don't want to hear it. That's the problem.
Mick's
It's because you've never faced reality. You believe this deep down, but you don't want to have to look in the mirror and also agree with it.
Did I hit like two nerves and chords of like you're
You
a
know
big DeVito fan?
You know what they
and a
say?
big,
you know what
Peter
they say
Parker?
down south,
Or,
Mick? Hit dog hollers.
Yeah, that's it.
And that guy got hit.
Mick just showed up and went, I really enjoyed the Beatles, except for all that John Lennon stuff. Because Tobey Maguire is the John Lennon of actors.
No,
You
here
heard
we
me.
go. The Broncos are Yoko Ono. They ruined it.
That one's fine. That one's fine. Yeah, I
They
got
ruined it.
no notes on that one. I
They
guess.
ruined it.
We found it. We've
Patrick
gotten,
Mahomes, the Beatles.
The real problem with all of this, no matter what your actual opinions are about the sides we've taken, none of the things we've said are as bad as the Broncos. The Broncos are still the worst. The Broncos are a horse's head in your bed. Like, that's bad.
And honestly, I feel like we're being unfair to the other 52 guys on the roster outside of Russell Wilson because he, as of 3 months ago, was a marquee quarterback, the biggest trade of the offseason in the past several years. And this was the huge storyline. And we're pairing him with Patrick Mahomes. Oh, my goodness. This is...
Yeah. It's an obvious Sunday Night Football
can't
matchup.
be beat.
It's an obvious Sunday Night Football matchup. Maybe there was a reason the Seahawks didn't let Russ cook. Did you see the pictures on Thanksgiving about letting Russ cook? That the Wilson household let Russ cook, and it was like a piece of bread with like SpaghettiOs on it. They let Russ cook Thanksgiving. Boy, he has just gotten, for 12 weeks, he has been the joke of the NFL.
All right, so I need to mention this because this was circling today. I think it started with a report from Mike Kliss, who tweeted that
just named Michaelis.
He's Michaelis. He tweeted that Sierra threw a birthday party for Russell Wilson
and didn't invite him.
And probably that too.
Party. It's the lowest blow.
He said that it looked like about half the team showed up. Now my reaction to this was very different than Twitter's reaction to this.
Yeah,
where are you guys at? Before I give you any more information, about half the team showing up to Russell Wilson's birthday
that's
party.
fine. Whatever. It's the offense, I guess, right?
Well, also, is he going to be friends to invite to a birthday 53 guys and, practice squad guys? Like, the entire
I'm sure
office...
Twitter overreacted to it.
The entire office
not Twitter,
here,
but,
wasn't it Stephen St. John's 50th birthday party? But, people may have had stuff to do. You've got other things going on.
I wasn't invited. Way to twist that knife.
Well,
I wasn't there either. I'm just saying, but I get along just fine with Stephen.
I did
I don't.
too.
Hey, just in case Steven's listening, I don't think you're the Russell Wilson of 8-10. Just so Steven knows that, because it sounds like that's what Jason's saying.
Maybe the rest of the team was worried they didn't. They don't have enough bathrooms in the house?
That was the problem.
I'm not going to go there and wait in line at a bathroom. They only have 12.
I think you guys are right,
14 bathroom.
I think that's about a +4 EPA, expected party years added. Like I would have said like 20-ish. You feel pretty good about. You're the quarterback. You should get the offensive line and the pass catchers. I want to know how many defenders showed up.
I'm willing to bet not all 52 other guys showed up to Patrick Mahomes' birthday party.
Right. I mean,
back in September.
I think if you get invited, I bet he'd be at like a +30 EPA because you're getting a lot of the team.
I do wonder if this year was skewed a little because after the Chargers game, Mahomes did make that party about Jalen Watson, which meant that now you've got all the young rookies, you've got the defensive guys. So now it's Mahomes and Jalen Watson party at Mahomes' house. So that might be skewed.
I bet he did invite everybody.
Russell Wilson or Mahomes?
No, Mahomes. And I bet everybody.
It was probably just an open invite if you can make it. But other guys have families. Like, oh, we can't get a babysitter this night. Or we've got other things to do. Or, oh, hey, we're going over to my wife's family. Or I've got this going on. Not going to make it. Happy birthday, man. Wish I was there. I mean, that happens all the time. People get invited to weddings and can't make it to weddings.
Absolutely.
You know?
I'm anticipating that none of you three will actually be there for my wedding. I expect a lengthy...
I don't even want an invite because I don't want to feel obligated to give you a gift.
I'll be there in a hoodie. Don't worry.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's okay, Beards. You have my permission for that.
I'll be there in a hoodie and nothing else. If you invite me, I honor invitations.
This is a win-win.
I swear to God, even if Patrick Mahomes would have invited me, I would have even showed up at that birthday party.
I don't know. I got stuff to do. What about if Russell Wilson invited you?
I don't know. I would have to check out that house. Yeah. His roommate as well.
Well, hold on. Sierra invited me, not Russell. It's just I don't.
That's
care.
a good point.
The party is immaterial. Who it's for? It's hanging out at Sierra's house. Well, Russell lives here too. Sierra's roommate is also here. And she's throwing a party for her roommate.
Russell might be a good dude. I think he's kind of weird and hasn't played great football, or even like he hadn't even got up to bad football status this year.
I think he's corny. I think he's a clown. I think he's a poser. But he's probably a nice enough fella. You know. Doesn't seem to be somebody that's going around robbing banks and kicking puppies for no reason.
Wow. So
seems nice enough.
I tweeted my expected party years added thing, and also just, I want to know how many defenders showed up. And then from Parkus Meters on Twitter, tweeted, defense are the only teammates that have showed up all year.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
So maybe that's why about half the team was there, because the offense, much like the season, just didn't show up.
Who was the defensive lineman that was barking at Russell Wilson? Purcell?
Mike Purcell.
Yeah. Purcell? Was Purcell there? That's what I want to know.
No chance.
Was he there?
No shot.
But God, that is an amazing line. Defense are the only teammates that have shown up anyway, all year long. All that to bring up the
Are we
Chiefs
sure wasn't
play the
like?
Bengals.
Do we know it was the Broncos team they're talking about? Wasn't like half the Panthers that showed up? Like, hey, thanks, man.
Brian Burns is
appreciate
there.
it.
It's just, hey, how you doing, man? Did any Seahawks show up randomly? Just fly into town for that?
It's weird that Richard Sherman was there just to heckle.
I doubt that.
He was just there to heckle. he was just standing in the corner going, "This party sucks! I wish I was at home!"
Oh, hey, look! Turns out Russell Wilson's getting all the glory, but Sierra did all the work. Boy, that sounds familiar. Hey, Sierra, no, I feel you. I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Wasn't there another teammate that was former teammate that was kind of trashing him over the offseason this year?
I think Golden Tate was tweeting about him.
Lynch and Richard Sherman,
What
right?
I'm imagining is just Richard Sherman and Golden Tate being the Statler and Waldorf just in the balcony just the entire time, and it would be excellent.
If they would have Twitch streamed that, I think Cam Chancellor, that feels right. I assume all the defensive backs. Sure. I assume that the Legion of Boom is not a fan. I don't know if that's fair or not.
Because the Legion of Boom was like, oh, the defense was really good too, but Russell Wilson was amazing, and they had a good defense.
Did Marshawn say something?
I don't think so. Has Marshawn? No,
Marshawn was on the podcast with Richard Sherman.
Right. Marshawn is pissed about not getting the ball.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think Richard Sherman is pissed about the defense not getting credit for how good they were, and the offense and Russell, and even maybe a little bit Marshawn getting credit. Marshawn's just never going to let it go that he did not get to carry the football.
And
on
that he
down.
doesn't like that he has to reach out to Russell's assistant to get a hold of him.
That is true as well.
Manager or whatever.
Which is that real? I missed that
it was
one.
on the podcast.
So it was Richard,
yeah.
So they're like, and it was like an inside joke because it was early in the season when he was struggling, and Marshawn's like, man, I'd love to reach out to him, and Richard Sherman just smiles like, you got his manager's number. Reach out to his manager.
Dude,
He's
that's
like, yeah,
crazy.
I know, man. Yeah.
Which kind of goes to the whole the friends.
No, that's a weird one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That one's strange. Imagine, I bet Isaiah Pacheco had Patrick Mahomes' phone number, direct phone number, moments after being drafted?
No, he's
probably
third round or higher.
There's a cutoff for sure, but Marshawn Lynch should have been on the right side of that.
Lower than a third rounder. You got to make at least $700,000 this year.
Nathaniel Hackett has a press conference going on right now, by the way. Nick Kosmiter of the Athletic tweeted out here. Nathaniel Hackett.
Is that the same guy that?
No, this is a new addition to the mix here.
Okay.
Nathaniel Hackett, when asked about an NFL Network report that Wilson has lost some in the locker room, quote, "To me, it's all gossip. We have a fantastic locker room. I've never seen somebody work that hard and try to embrace a team like he has," unquote, which is what it is, by the way. We can circle back on that.
Okay.
I just think that quote is so funny because he ends it with, "I've never seen somebody work that hard and try to embrace a team like he has." He does not say that this team has embraced him back.
No. I've never seen somebody work that hard. Why do you have to work that hard to be the
high knees, baby. High knees.
Pass! Come on, everybody, pass!
Chemistry!
Yeah.
Team chemistry!
Pass the cake!
You know why he's had to work? He's had to work that hard because people are like, "Yeah, I don't know that I like this guy."
Right.
You know, the Seahawks have reached out and we're excited he's here because we are going to, win and we might win the West this year and we finally got a quarterback, but I'm not sure that I like this guy. He's going to have to work harder to be able to earn my trust and my respect. I don't know.
Mick, following up on an earlier story, because I said unquote in the Sports Center, and you said, is it unquote or end quote? And when you asked that, my eyes were opened to a potential that I had never even considered, because end quote makes a lot of sense. You start Googling it, there are people asking if it's on quote.
It's not on.
We knew it wasn't that.
No, it's. I always said it was quote unquote.
That's what I've said, and that the internet says the standard expression is quote unquote.
Okay.
But I think end quote actually makes more sense.
The internet, I'm reading it right here, it says quote, it's quote unquote, unquote.
All right, well that solves it.
Is there an end quote at the end?
It says it says quote, it's not end quote, unquote.
Yeah.
I don't know what the confusion is.
What if it said quote, it's not end quote, end quote?
Unquote.
Unquote.
Unquote. And then it's in quotes.
He said, to that end, quote, "This has been a really weird segment," unquote.
Okay,
you said
here,
quote.
as a standard in telegrams, end quote came first, but was I lost the but it was swept away by the more popular later usage of unquote. So maybe it started as end quote with telegrams.
So end quote is in like, I'm done with the telegram. Over. You're talking.
Why don't we just say
over?
Why don't we just say over again? That seems Roger copy. We just get more walkie-talkie terminology into our day-to-day lives.
Well, if we ever are in different positions where we're doing the show and there's a delay, then it may be one of those to where, what I heard from Chris Jones when he said Burrow's a good quarterback, you're not going to get me to say anything that's like bulletin board material against him. I'm reading too much into that Chris Jones doesn't exactly have the highest regard for how he felt Burrow played and beat them, that he doesn't really think that it's Burrow is the reason why they lost that game. Over.
Copy that, Jason. And I think it's another example of the Chiefs really circling this game on the schedule. Over.
I could see that. Over.
Copy that, Anderson.
Mick.
Is this bit over?
Over.
In unquote.
You got to say it. You got to say it.
Over.
Over what? Is it over what? Is it over the moon? is it over the hill? What is it? What is it over? All right. So 913-912-4810. That is actually something that I am reading too much into.
I think the Chiefs
is
are
that
going to
Chris Jones quote unquote of him saying, "You're not going to get me to say anything bad about Joe Burrow."
I think the Chiefs are going to win this game by scoring a touchdown and a field goal, but they're going to give up 2 safeties. 10-4.
I'm so mad I'm smiling.
Mark that, Beard!
So mad.
Mark that and put that in my tombstone.
I am so, here lies Josh. Quote, I'm so mad I'm smiling at that, unquote.
It's beautiful.
10-4. Good, buddy. All right. So anyway, Mick, did you hear my reading way too much into the Chris Jones? Do we have that clip somewhere? Can we hear it? Can we run it back? Has Curtis cut that?
Probably
any chance that to hear Chris Jones, what he actually said, so I'm not just trying to quote unquote what Chris Jones said and get it wrong. Paraphrase.
He does single quote, I think, the phrase "all world." So if you got it in there, Beards, great. If not, I can come try to fiddle around and see if it's.
I haven't.
If it's in there somewhere.
Okay. Well, it's
it is worth
Can
grabbing.
you yell to Curtis to see if he's cut the Chris Jones and why is Joe Burrow so tough to sack? Why is he tough to bring down?
He's not for other teams.
Well, also the Chiefs had like 5 sacks against him the first time. in Cincinnati, just a few weeks earlier. It just is. Sometimes those things happen.
I think
sometimes you're in another team's movie. And last year, the Chiefs were in like chapter 15 of the Bengals book. That's what they were.
Isn't it 35 and 35? The Chiefs have had 35 sacks this year, and the Bengals have given up 35.
They've been better as of late. I know the first 5 games. I was looking at this the other night, in just how well Burrow's been playing as of late.
Not good the first couple weeks there.
Let's see. Joe Burrow in the first 5 games of the season was getting sacked 3.6 times per game, and in the last 6 games, it's down to 2.5. So he's still getting sacked, 2.5 times a game, but it's a full sack per game in the last 6 games, less than it was at the beginning of the season when they were just getting torched.
Those first 2, it was 7 and then 6.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh and Dallas.
So he was getting torched in that. And by the way, these last 6 games, he's over 71%. With a quarterback rating over 112 and has 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's been playing good football at 300 yards per game.
That math checks out, and there was 3.6 or what? 3.5?
3.6 down to 2.5.
2.5, and that like the Chiefs are averaging 3.1 sacks per game, so kind of right in the middle there. So their numbers are at least very similar on the sack side, and they will be the same, right? If they're both at 35, they'll both be equal after this game.
Last year, Joe Burrow was sacked an average of 3.18 times per game.
Well,
3.1's continue.
Maybe if another quarterback comes in.
Whoa.
But that would still go against the Bengals giving up sacks. Yeah. Let's hear from Chris Jones. He was asked, why is Joe Burrow somebody that seems to be a tougher guy to sack?
Chris, is there anything about Joe Burrow that makes him difficult to bring down?
He's a good quarterback, man. I don't know what you guys want me to give you, all world. I'm not going to give y'all all of that. He's a good quarterback, man. He's a good quarterback.
What's all world mean?
He's not saying he's all world
or anything. He's a good quarterback. I don't know what you want me to tell you. It's not all world or whatever. I don't know what you want me to tell you. He's a good quarterback. And my reading too much into it was Chris Jones essentially like, I'm not going to go out here and say all these things about, Joe Burrow's this and Joe Burrow's that, and you're not going to get me to say anything even bad about him because the guy that walked off the field wearing the 9 jersey for the Bengals ain't the reason we lost.
Yes. I don't think you're reading too much into that.
But I'm not going to say it because I'm not trying to give bulletin board to the Bengals about me saying number 9 didn't beat us, we beat ourselves.
Even if he's confident in being able to get to him, but respects him at the same time, he's going to say something like, he moves well in the pocket. A lot of times, you gotta wrap up because he's always keeping his feet moving, something like that, to that effect.
He's a good
standard.
Like I don't know what you want me to tell you.
And no, if you watch that game last year, no, Joe Burrow's like the 11th reason down the list that the Chiefs lost that game.
Again, in the second half alone, they dropped an interception. Nick Bolton should have had it. And he'll tell you as much. I'm not speaking for
he
Nick
brought
Bolton.
It up
he's
after the Chargers game. He got his first one, right? And then another one, the Rams,
so that should have been an interception. Chris Jones, the very next play was the 3rd and 7 when he's wrapping Joe Burrow up and then Burrow escapes to the middle and then runs away from Chris Jones. And then Ben Neiman is stuck in the middle of, do I stay and guard Samaje Perine or do I run after Joe Burrow, who then pitches it to Perine and they get a first down anyway? It's a tough position for Ben Neiman to be in, so that wasn't on him at all. And he picks up the first down. 2 plays later, or 3 plays later, on 3rd down, Melvin Ingram has a shot at Joe Burrow, who runs right up the middle away from Ingram and picks up like 13 yards, another first down. In the 3rd quarter earlier, Chris Jones has Joe Burrow on 2nd down and 10, wrapped up, going to bring him down. Burrow escapes, gets away, runs to his right, finds Jamar Chase for 23 yards. They kick a field goal on that drive. Those are 2 different scoring drives that would have ended with sacks, along with the drive that ended with an interception from Joe Burrow to L'Jarius Sneed when he actually did throw an interception. So if I'm the Chiefs defense, I'm looking at it and saying, if we just sack Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon did nothing until overtime. Then he had those 2 runs where it kind of felt like the Chiefs defense was like, oh, well, we're done. They're in field goal range. They're in field goal range already. Once they completed the pass to T. Higgins for a first down, I think it was their 2nd first down. And then Joe Mixon has 2 runs for 18, 19 yards, and at that point they kicked the field goal. I think the second one was kind of toast anyway. But Mixon didn't do anything. The running game didn't do anything. Jamar Chase wasn't amazing in the game. He had the touchdown on Rashad Fenton when they went to him back-to-back times at the goal line for a jump pass or a back shoulder to Jamar Chase. Chase had the 23-yarder. That should have been a sack. So I think the defense comes out of that game going, how in the hell did we lose that game? One, we know the offense didn't do what they needed to do, but we didn't get off the field nearly enough times when we were one play or an inch here or there away from getting off the field. I don't think this team looks at it and goes, wow, number 9's out there. You just got to tip your cap.
And look, they were on the field a lot that second half. 5 plays, Chiefs offense, second half. 5 plays, 2 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays. And then finally that 14-play drive that got him the game-tying field goal. But, I mean, you're getting thrown back on the field a couple minutes after you left it.
The stat that I'll continue to bring up the next couple of days, and this goes into Patrick Mahomes asked about, what you see on the film and what you got to work on or change. And he said that, not a ton. What was different in that game? And he goes, not a ton from the first half to the second half watching it on film. They played a little bit more man in second half. And even Andy Reid saying, the last game, he goes, they kind of did the same stuff the second half that they did in the first half, and so much focus about dropping 8. Bringing 3, dropping 8. That whole second half, right? All they did against the Chiefs was do that. Well, I went back and rewatched the game last night, and it was kind of therapeutic to do that. It's the first time I've rewatched the Chiefs and Bengals game. And
it's good to know that you're not just bringing up all these random plays from a year ago.
Okay. No, I'm not. No, because it's fresh from last night. My recollection was that the entire second half they dropped 8. That it was just what they were doing, and they were bringing 3 and dropping 8, and Hubbard was just a spy. So then I went back and watched and just specifically seeing what the Bengals were doing defensively, and the Chiefs in the second half and overtime, 34 plays. You know how many times the Bengals dropped 8? Out of the 34 plays the Chiefs ran, how many times the Bengals dropped 8 and only brought
17.
3?
I'll go half.
Okay.
That's what I had said. That's about half.
They did it 10 times. So only a third of the time. But what I found to be fascinating.
That was 34 plays or 34 dropbacks?
34 plays total. So 34 plays total. Because you don't know if they're going to run it or pass it sometimes with the Chiefs. If they're in shotgun, they can hand it off. They can do RPOs. But Hubbard dropping. So 34 plays. They brought 3 guys and dropped 8 only 10 times. What was really fascinating is that 8 of those 10 were on second down.
I was going to say,
first and third down.
It wasn't third down.
They weren't doing it. Twice on third down, they only brought 3 guys and dropped 8. Only twice in the game did they do that in the second half on third down. The Chiefs ran 12 second down plays in the second half. So if you follow me there, 8 of the 12, the Bengals dropped back.
Well, I mean, how many were second and 5? How many were that penalty second and 15? Whatever.
There were only.
Oh, he's covered.
He's got this. Yeah, there were only 3 plays that were shorter than 4 yards. So there was a second and 3, a second and 2, and a second and 1. 2 of those 3, they brought 4 or 5. So when you're seeing second and 4, second and 6, second and 6, second and 6, second and 10, second and 6, second and 5, second and 6, second and 4, the Bengals are dropping 8. They don't think you're going to run. And guess what? Pass, 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 pass. Second and 2 run, second and 1 run, pass, pass. They didn't. They challenged the Chiefs. Second and 4th or longer, you're not going to run on us. So we're just going to drop 8. That's going to be our defense. You take the snap, we're dropping 8. And if you run on us, you're going to pick up a lot of yards. But we don't think you're going to do it. And they never adjusted. They didn't ever switch up and go, hey, you realize every second down they're dropping 8. You realize? And by the way, they did that in the first half. They dropped 8 in the first half. They did that 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So they did it more in the second half. But it's not like they went from, wow, we've never seen this look of them only bringing 3. And then they did it the entire second half. They did it 5 times in the first half total, 10 times in the second half total. They were daring the Chiefs on second down and 4th or longer to run it. And guess what the Chiefs really don't do on second down? Run the ball. They don't. they run the ball on first down to start a drive.
And even then,
now
way,
let's pass
way,
it.
way less often than neutral situations would indicate. That's
Absolutely.
been true as long as Andy Reid's been here. I saw another graph of that this week.
I like that tendency because 99% of the teams and the coaches out there, if you throw on first down and you throw it incomplete,
or it's a run. Yeah,
second down, we're running.
Second
There's
and 10
inside
run.
zone, and we're going to pick up 2, and here's 3rd and 8.
I totally agree, and so I'm completely fine with that. It's just in that game, 1, the Bengals sniffed it out and dared them, and 2, even on those plays, Mahomes didn't exactly play well. Like it wasn't like
Almost like he played concussed.
Well, I don't know, maybe. Or maybe he had money on the Bengals. I don't know.
There's just some hits in that first half.
Yeah, I know. All the
people bring up.
all
But
the
I didn't believe
theories.
at the time, but like every game since then,
Yeah.
and then you consider every game before that, especially in the playoffs leading up, like, okay, that conspiracy theory is like holding a little more water now because it was just an out-of-body experience for him for those 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you think he was having an out-of-body experience? Do you think he got Freaky Friday with Zach Wilson at halftime?
No, I think it's more concussion.
Okay,
I think
all
those
right.
are more common.
More common in the
football.
NFL?
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah.
I think some of it also was maybe a little greedy in the reads because the interception that he threw, watching it again, I think one, it was an RPO, but I think it was an RPO that everybody else read run. Because Creed Humphrey was 5 yards down the field. He was not going, let me just stalk block here for a little bit. It was snap the ball. I'm getting out because there's nobody here. The read is run. Hand it to McKinnon. We just picked up 7 yards on first down at 2nd and 3. They are showing that they're dropping 8. Snap the ball. Creed gets 5 yards down the field. Wiley is 4 yards down the field, still going down. And Brown is 3 yards down the field, heading in that direction when Mahomes then throws the ball. They never look back. They don't know it's a pass. They are thinking it's a run because probably everybody on the field read run except Mahomes going, bleep this, I'm going to pass it to DeMarcus Robinson.
Well, and that's
So I think there was some greed, or maybe he was concussed.
And no, it's
There's
not-
DeMarcus Robinson over there. I
It's
got to
not
get him the
exonerate
ball.
to Andy Reid from this, the guy who's been at the helm for what?
Absolutely.
3 of the top 7 biggest playoff game collapses in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think this is one where the Chiefs are going into the game thinking they did so much self-inflicted damage the last time they played. And that's why they ended up losing. Not we're going up against a
like
team
a
that's
staple
better
for that
than
team.
us. We're going up against a
They
team that's better than
self-inflict
us.
a lot of wounds.
they do. They shoot themselves in the foot. Stop doing it. Shoot elsewhere. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Shot Clock Reviews next.
And Sat fans.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what?
I told you it's done.
I'm so stupid. That's right. It's a short sad
It's
fans,
short
not a
sad
tall
fans,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of sad fans that are shorter. We will do sad fans and Shot Clock Reviews next.
I'd be sad about short.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
The more dead puppies there are in the world, the more that's going to dilute the cuteness of the puppies that we have right now. Less puppies means more cute, okay? They said it in Incredibles.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer. He's KSHB 41 Sports Director. That's what he is. Shot Clock Reviews, then Sad Fans, then Shot Clock Reviews.
Let's do Sad Fans first.
Sad Fans and then Shot Clock Reviews about Sad Fans?
That work, Beards? Yeah, we could review Sad Fans. That one I just know we can't change the time of because it's already there.
It's already in the can.
It's a good point. So we should do that first, and we can adjust the Shot Clock Reviews
Maybe we get a 12-second shot clock this week. Who's to say?
Ooh, okay. That's a reset. That's if you get an offensive rebound, that's a reset shot clock. You're not going to go all the way to 24.
Yeah.
Maybe
the four of us share
20 in college, right? 30 to 20 when you get the offensive
we go back
rebound.
to like the 1980s in college, 45 seconds.
Let's do it, man. Let's. I really want to get this take out there. 45 seconds is still not enough time. I'm still 1/8 of the way from. Sorry, 1/20th
the
away.
Bud Lathrop shot clock review.
Darn right. Just
no
4
shot
corners. Just get in the corners, man. All right, passing game. All right, let's go. This is a shorter Sad Fans. These are Rams or?
Yep, just Rams fans.
Okay, shorter Sad Fans, Ram fans from
Sad
Reddit.
Rams on Reddit.
Sad Rams fans.
Sad Rams on Fedit.
Let's hear it.
And now, a very small list of things that LA Rams fans said on Reddit.
Micro Sad fans.
We gonna die. Thought that flag was gonna be for the McVay hit. Maybe concussed McVay will call all the good plays. LOL. I thought I smelled 3 points. What was I thinking? This offense needs to start with better field position than the opponent's 40. Raheem Morris, the defensive genius, leaving Kelsey wide open. What pisses me off more than this team this season is watching Patrick Mahomes' stupid-ass waddle of a walk. Hardest Ram hits are against themselves. Who got burned more, Marcus Peters or Ramsey? Will the Rams score points in this game? Serious question. They bent and broke and bent over. Any new fans want to know what it was like to watch the Jeff Fisher era? It honestly might have been a little better than this. Does McVay call anything other than a 3rd and long draw? What the did they do at practice last week? Anybody who even suggests that Perkins could be the future of this team should be slapped hard. 4th and 30 to win the game. McVay calls a draw. It blows my mind that we have gotten to the point where I see 13-3 and I think, yeah, offense ain't coming back on that. So when are we trading for Zach Wilson? Why do we have a running back playing quarterback? LMAO, there goes that. Perkins sucks after all. Comment. Guys, I'm starting to think that we might not win the Super Bowl this year. Reply. I just want to win another game this season. I mean, technically it could have been worse. The greatest loss today was McVay's perfect jawline now being at risk. The road to the 2023 last place schedule marches on. And now, the winner of things that Rams fans said on Reddit. This team is ass. I love it.
That's great.
All right.
Beards, it was shorter than we expected, but still good enough.
Sometimes short but sweet.
Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes, really awesome things come in small packages.
Really tiny packages sometimes.
We gon' die.
We gonna die. That's my favorite.
We gon' die. The greatest loss was McVay's jawline.
Perfect jawline.
I honestly, man, the broadcast was so worried about it that it was.
They really were.
It was honestly concerning. I tweeted during the game that I wish anybody cared about me as much as the broadcast cared about Sean McVay's face. And one of my dear friends tweeted and said, "If you had Sean McVay's face, I'd care more."
That's a good point.
And that's the only thing I've been able to think of since then. So thanks, Darren.
Who was the player? How did he not know that he just tuned up his coach?
He wasn't looking. He was putting his helmet.
Hit him.
Right. He was putting his helmet on And the guy hit his shoulder, but he was still running out. He didn't know it was McVay.
Your car's hit a bug recently, I'm sure, too. I mean,
didn't realize. That's a good point. Sean McVay's face hit an NFL player's shoulder pads while he was running by.
Yeah.
That player may not know that he got hit.
NFL players, I think, have to be like calibrated to not register anything less than like a concussive level blow.
That's exactly right. I mean, he hit and he just continues running out there on the field, not going to look back. If he knew it was McVay, I bet he would have stopped.
Where was the get back coach?
The get back coach?
There was the get back coach.
To tell McVay to get back.
It's like, damn, I thought I only employed at the start of the game to the end of the game. And get you back beforehand.
Ridiculous. All right, so shot clock reviews now?
Yeah, let's do it, baby.
All right, let's shot clock review. By the way, Argentina and Poland are tied at 0. Messi had a penalty kick blocked.
Whoa.
Yeah,
it was
Messi. Sucks for those that have Messi as anytime scorer and first goal scorer. That's not fun. But also Mexico and
KSA.
Saudi Arabia is
Kingdom. Throwing us off there. Is that what it is?
Country of Saudi Arabia. KSA. Country, Saudi Arabia. All right, shot clock reviews. Josh, you go ahead and lead us off.
I'd love to. And I mentioned this briefly in Fact or Fiction, but I need to give a full review on this because I'm also not sure where Mick's going to follow me on this side of history. I would like to review everybody who takes their full-size carry-on that definitely is just a suitcase onto the plane as a carry-on. Listen, we're all flying Southwest here. They give you 2 bags. This is not something that you have to downsize for. And yes, it's going to take you, 3 to 4 minutes to wait at the baggage claim for them to bring you your bag that they put underneath you in the plane. Out of sight, out of mind. They do all of the shipping and handling for you. All it takes for you to free up a bunch of space for the rest of us is that you give us 5 minutes of your patience while this miracle of flight takes your luggage away from you for a couple of hours. Just check your bags. If you don't, you get a 2 out of 10.
What if they already had their allotment of bags checked and they didn't want to pay the $50 to then check the next one?
And
get better at packing, I guess.
Baggage gets lost sometimes.
It's not going to get lost in the overhead.
Risk.
You know what? Not going to lose it.
You know what I'm going to lose? My respect for you.
Side on that one.
It's too. There's a size of carry-on that's acceptable.
Well, that's quite literally a size of carry-on.
If you can only get the door above your head closed by just a centimeter of extra space, you could have checked it.
Sounds like it fits.
You could have checked it.
Sounds like it fits.
It fits, and now no one else's luggage does.
Oh, I bet there's plenty of other space there.
It's big luggage, man. They know the dimensions. They know the width, the height, and everything.
Yes.
They push it, man. They go an inch farther on each side, each up and down, each sideways.
Check a bag. It's fine.
You give them a luggage compartment, they'll take an inch.
I will say, on Southwest, check a bag.
Check
Absolutely.
a bag.
Other stuff, I don't want to pay
tape.
$35.
This is Southwest exclusive for now. I will consider making this about all airlines if I have one more sort of unnerving and frustrating experience.
Okay.
Sorry it happened to you.
Thank you.
Is that a question mark? Thank you.
No, I meant it. It was authentic.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. It happened to me.
Mick, what's I forgot we're passing the ball on this one. Yeah, sorry, I'm out of practice.
So I would like to review my harrowing attempt at correctly pronouncing the name of last night's Simone Award winner on the news. All right, so the head coach assured me that his name was D-Rock Tafak. And immediately I broke out into hives, and I thought this is not only going to be Gary's last week, but my last week on air. I've been nervous in TV in 20 years, but I got on air, and I got out D-Rock Tafak with Kevin and Dia laughing like hyenas behind the camera at me. And then I went and met him that night to get some interview with him. Say, how do I say your name? He goes, Harold Tafak. I'm like, what? What?
Tafak. I mean, Tafak is still close, though.
I worked all day on that. I walked that plank.
Rock to walk.
I walked that plank.
Jason, stop repeating it. I'm nervous.
Yes.
I wanted to rock.
I want to rock.
Squad.
Gary was actually going to do the entire sportscast, but I'm like, well, I'm not going to try to say that name.
What's
it was his last day. He should have.
He gets fired.
So,
first and last sportscast.
I filmed the story. D-Rock, born in Cameroon, family moved over, and a lot of times they take on kind of Americanized names to assimilate, and so he chose Harold. But all his football buddies and his coaches are like, D-Rock is an awesome name.
Yeah,
you got to go by D-Rock. So he kind of goes by both. Officially D-Rock, and then it's TSAFACK, and it's Tafak apparently. And I might still be getting it right, but I think that's what he said to me afterward, and that's how I said it on the 10 o'clock news, which is much easier to say. And he is an awesome kid. He won the Bell Award, which goes to the best lineman linebacker in the small schools. He goes to Center High School, is a beast, and 4.3 GPA, speaks 4 languages, and
Good Lord.
was a wrestler. He's a lot of things going for him. So cool to meet him, although it might have been, it was almost my last day in TV yesterday.
So you could say he's somebody that is not tough fact with.
That's exactly what I'd say.
Yeah. I'm just going to say congratulations. Sounds like an incredible human being.
Well, second reference after the name was always D-Rock.
Because that's awesome.
The rest of the story.
That's awesome and not going to get you in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah. That last
D-Rock.
name is...
Sounds great. Who's next?
Jason.
All right.
So I was looking at Beards.
I am going to review, just finished it last night. I'm going to, only had like 20 minutes left. I'm going to review Pepsi, Where's My Jet?
Yeah, I told you to watch that.
Mick told me to watch this, so I won't watch it. Remember the Pepsi challenge? Back in the day, it was Coke. Is it Pepsi? The Cola Wars. And then Pepsi had, if you collect enough points, you can win all these cool things. Well, on the commercial, they put Harrier Jet for 7 million points. Turns out they did not put a disclaimer. So a kid went and collected the points, found out you could actually purchase them. $700,000 got you the 7 million points. And Pepsi said no, and it's a 4-part documentary. Can I get an offensive rebound real quick?
I'd love to get him aboard.
It's a 4-part documentary about the battle with Pepsi in court with this kid and the lawyers, one of them being Michael Avenatti, which was a complete and total thing out of left field that happens in episode 3. Sorry, Mick, spoiler there.
The first 2 episodes.
But the
You can
whole
spoil
thing,
it, it's fine.
the whole thing is him about trying to and telling Pepsi, no, you made an offer, 7 million. Everything in the commercial is something you can actually get for the points.
It's a
except
crazy
for the Harrier
story.
Jet.
Because they looked up, first of all, they were like, they had to ask
It's
the
fun.
Pentagon, can you own a Harrier jet? Can you own your own fighter jet? And they said, technically you can if you don't have all the bombs and the missiles and the
missiles
on
and no.
it.
Sure, you can own
and
it.
the Harrier jet was at that time like $32 million. And can't wait to see
it's
the
this huge.
I
huge
remember
fight.
the Pepsi stuff. I
So
remember
do I.
like the duffel bag and somebody
Yep.
had the jacket.
It's a great campaign. You drink more of our stuff, and then you get to wear our branded stuff around. It's an amazing campaign. It's just they didn't put a
Just
disclaimer.
little line
that it was, that. Turns out they started changing the commercials after that, which was kind of admitting that
I
the
love
first one
this.
was a mistake. It was good. I liked it. I give it an 8. Beards.
I was going to talk about the Chiefs getting flexed out of Sunday Night Football. So as somebody that has had to run, 5 Sunday night or like primetime games this year, and they keep getting flexed to where we have to stay late and doing this. This is a godsend. I don't want to have to be here with Josh until 1:30 or 2 in the morning again. So I'm good with that. I know it's going to happen in the playoffs, but give us all the saving grace that we can. Yes. This is great. It's excellent for me. It's like an 11 out of 10.
Andy Reid liked it as well.
I think every single person around here probably is really happy that that game's not on Sunday Night Football now.
Not the KSHB sales department.
That's what
true. But the KSHB 41 sports director, perfectly fine with it.
I mean,
as a team, he's a good teammate.
No, I want us to make
what
lots
did
of
Gary
money.
think?
That's right.
Yeah, that's a great question.
We'll find out next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is going to be so stupid, but here we go.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, thank you, Mick. Appreciate it. Great stuff, man.
Anytime.
Really
as long
good
as
stuff.
it's a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday.
And from 1 to maybe 2, maybe
Or that,
30
hours. Yeah.
That one sports or leisure you filled in for Josh.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
That's awesome.
I heard you had beef with with Patrick Mahomes Depot.
Yeah, it's wrong.
Because his name is not Mahomes.
Yeah, it's just a game that we play for fun.
Well, and just the store's not called Homes Depot.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I like to play games. By
No,
the rules.
if,
By the
no,
rules. That's
look,
how
I
like
mean,
to
if
play
I was trying to
games.
give you a fighter jet for 7 million points, we could take this to court, but I don't have anything to defend quite that much for Patrick Mahomes Depot.
The best part about it, though, Josh, I know you didn't listen because why would you? I didn't either. Mick was just giving hints all willy-nilly, and oh no, what if I told you he?
I fell into the everybody wins trap.
Sucked right in. It's
different in here.
Sucked right into the.
Feel
you know
bad.
what? I want you to win, sir. You're so close. Here, try your guess for the 6th time. Oh, let's make it 7.